Hello everyone, and welcome to an episode of Aurogiri, and this is going to be a serious episode, a very serious topic that we're all remotely aware of, but it needs to be enforced, and we need to understand what's at stake. So yesterday, I didn't make a video on this per se, but I put up a community post outlining the translated update that Cyberstep put on their website yesterday. So if you went to, I'm going to type it in my computer right now, Onigiri, PS4, you search that up, brings you to the official site. We go here, we scroll down. In terms of information, there was no update that was supposed to come last week, but what does exist is PS4 notice concerning actions against fraudulent activity. You click on this and it reads as follows, and this was posted on the 15th, so I guess it wasn't even yesterday, it was about a week ago. It says, greetings from the Onigiri service team. We only really discovered it yesterday, like no one brought it to my attention. I didn't think of it because we were looking for an update and we saw nothing for an update. There was nothing on Twitter, so we assumed it was yesterday. So what's going on is it says, greetings from the Onigiri service team. In accordance with Cyberstep's terms of service, the Onigiri management team must take corrective action as follows against all accounts found to be in violation of the terms. And then it says terms of service. You click on that and it reads, it's a link. It says SNS and game usage regulations. SNS stands for like social networking service. This applies to, let's say, PSN. This applies to Facebook. Basically social media, like if it's Onigiri related in a certain way, like let's say you went on Facebook and you were trying to make a group to like sell weapons for profit or mags for like monetary profit that's not OC. Like, let's say that was, if Cyberstep caught wind of that and was able to identify who was who and who was instigating the stuff and it matched up with records, then they could take action against that. That's an example of that. Or if there's like bullying or hate speech or excessive harassment that's Onigiri related, obviously, like, they're not going to just go through your Facebook and, like, audit you. But to continue, it says, any act that violates the prohibited items stated in the terms of service can result in a strict punishment up to a permanent freeze of the account. In other words, a ban. You cannot log in. We will continue to monitor for fraudulent activity and take corrective action where necessary. We encourage players to play fairly and as the game is intended to be played. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your attention and support for Onigiri. So before I get into the actual meat and potatoes of like what's in the topic here, like what's in the title, or read what's happening here, basically what's enshrined within these terms of service, I want to state that as of around 12 o'clock my time this morning, a player on PS4 was banned. I seen a screenshot from a friend of mine. It was in this group chat we're in, and it was the character select screen. It was void. It said you are banned, and then it showed a picture of a % symbol S. So I think that's just a placeholder for a name. And to my knowledge, right, I know. To my knowledge, this was a level 130 player named Zarate. I don't think I've had any contact with the player myself, but it was someone's friend. He was a 130 player. So hey Quail, how you doing, bud? You know what's going on. You know what's going on, man. You're in that chat. So maybe I feel a partial, now I know I'm not as wide reaching, as I'd imagine. Like, I know every single person who plays Onigiri does not watch every single video I do. I completely understand that. But part of me is feeling like, had I have made this video yesterday, this person might not have been banned if word of mouth would have spread and people would have stopped abusing mechanics within the game. So part of me is like, shit, I really have to put this out. I wish I would have put this out earlier, but it's a big indeterminate factor. Would that have really mattered? But at the same time, I want to put this out there to prevent further bannings, because some people might not even know what they're doing is a glitch or a ban or whatever, because a lot of things that people do, we just call them techniques. They're just how it is. It's been like 6 years of this game. Like, some things you don't even consider what they are. It's like driving without your seatbelt. Eventually, you don't drive the car with your seatbelt. Like, it's like, oh, right, I have to do that. Or, oh, I had to blink. Or, oh, I had to... Eventually, it's all just... It meshes together, let's say. We don't think about things. We just do them. So anyway, so yes, someone was banned. And the reason for the ban, to my knowledge, is that they were abusing a glitch. That's bad. I really don't want to name what glitches are, because if you're like a new player, you're going to look up what the glitch was and you might want to do it. It's kind of annoying, but at the same time, it's like, it's hard to say. Like, without it being explained to you, like, you know that when we play this game, there are bazaars that are everywhere. Like, there's scam bazaars, there's bazaars, like, I'm not going to point any of these out specifically, but a lot of them that are just like look at, I want to look at them. Because if I look at them, you see a name, you see this, you see some shit, etc., etc. Like, you all know this hill here, the staircase. The new players spawn here, so there's a ton of scam stalls up around this neighborhood. It's a bad neck of woods. Like, not scam. Like, what is not scam? Not scam. That's complete and utterly scam. Like, everything's just, that goes up by an increment. It's absolutely scam. This is a weapon you can identify for free in Echigo. Like, this is all complete bogus scam. It's not worth jack shit. Like, this is the kind of shit we see everywhere. Like, people will, and we all know people will use my name, they'll use high-level players' names, they'll make alts with altering variations of the name because they're well-known, maybe they're respected. I've met a lot of you guys that, like, play this game because of me. Like, I've seen other people with similar names to mine. I've seen people rocking the blue hair, rocking the spear, water dragon, etc., etc., and I respect that. And in the same token, you know, I don't want someone to log in and just be like, oh, because at the bottom of the stairs over here somewhere, I think it was right here, there's the Aurogiri weapons, and this is probably all really fucking garbage. And wow, $900 for a piece of shit. So the main thing is, what that is, like, putting down these scam stalls is not glitching. You're not, like, whether someone buys something that's not purchased, not priced correctly, is up to the consumer. It's their own stupidity. However, if this player that puts this stuff down is not logged in, and Cyberstep logs in, a GM logs in, and they walk around and they want to say, hey, a lot of these stalls, how about I whisper these people? Like, are they on? And then they look at the tag, they look, does this person have alts? And if they look at all the stalls and they see a bunch of their alts all have stalls at the same time, they know they're not logged in, and thus they are abusing the game's mechanics to think they're logged in while not logged in. So that's bad. That would be a no-no against the terms of service, because you're abusing a glitch within the game. So, as an example, like, let's read the actual terms of service after getting, you know, just to get this straight across, like, showing some examples, showing what's a no-no. So it is already translated on my computer, because that's great. So oddly enough, and this is something that I don't understand, is there's no actual official, to my knowledge, English terms of service for us to read that's updated, like, as of 2021. Anyway, the one on PS4 links to the Japanese one, and it has to be translated. I do Google Translate with Google Chrome. So let's read that. SNS and game usage measures rules. Onigiri will take the following measures against acts prohibited by the Cyberstep service terms of service. Please see here for the terms. There's another terms of service? Can I click on that? It's blue. What is this? Cyberstep portal. This is also Japanese. Please translate this. Yes. So there's actually a huge ToS with 18 articles. Now, if I want to read all those articles, that's quite wild, and we might have to. Because what's enshrined in their abridged version of it, this just shows the penalties for what things are. They show the penalties per what bad things you do. Like if you wanted to use malware to on Onigiri. Now, malware could be anything from a third-party. It could be anywhere from a third-party tool assistant to an item that mines crypto, or a script, or a program, anything really third-party that affects Onigiri. I remember when Genshin was first coming out, it had like a cheat locker, not a cheat locker, but like a cheat scanner. I don't remember the word they used for it, but it was something that would scan files in your computer to look for malware that could be used towards Onigiri or Genshin or whatever. And people really criticized that it was running even when the game was not, and that was kind of an invasion of privacy, and that was kind of a dilemma for the first couple weeks of Genshin. Or not really a couple, but I remember that. So malware is basically any third-party thing that you could install, or a script that you could run that could interfere with Onigiri, giving a player benefits or maybe inhibiting other players around them. Like, for example, someone playing a shooter game could have aim assist to like instantly lock onto people's heads or whatever. Do they IP ban or do they delete accounts? That I don't know, Oyama, but that's a really good question. So the person, I think their name was Zarate. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But the one in question who was banned, supposedly their reasoning for being banned is due to manipulating a glitch. Enshrined in these understandings of how bans work, during the abuse of bugs, it is like the most lenient of all. Well, it's the second most lenient of all offenses you could have. The reasoning for that is the first time you are caught or found to have been abusing bugs, it says you are to receive a caveat. A caveat is synonymous with a warning. You know, like, hey, don't do that. Are you aware you're doing this? Stop doing that. And for the most part, a lot of players don't know what they're accused of. Hey, Larzeg, I'll accept that friend request right now. I see you there. There we go. So for an abuse of bugs, you're supposed to receive a caveat on the email you registered to Cyberstep with. After that, if it occurs again, or maybe even simultaneously, they will issue a 7-day login suspension. So that's not a ban, that's not an account ban. And then after that, if you're caught doing it again, like you're off parole and you come back, your name is Adlias, that's awesome, dude. You will be rewarded with, you'll be rewarded, listen to me. I'm cynical to every bone in my body. You will be, if you do it a third time, the primary time's a caveat, the second time 7-day login suspension, the third time is a 30-day login suspension, a month. I have also heard of certain players getting a 30-day ban because of like a lot of harassment on PSN and shit like that. Like people just going hog wild and like just a complete shitstorm of inappropriate things to do and say. And I've heard of people getting 30-day banned for that. The person who got banned, I believe their name is Zarate or Zarate. It's with a Z. I've only read it like once or twice. I apologize. I'll look real quick because PS5 lets me look at chat and not interrupt the stream. So I heard about this in a PSN chat group. Apparently happened early in the morning, like not even 8 hours ago, like 16 hours ago this happened. That's me talking. Their name was Zarate. They're a 130 player, and I don't think I've seen them before, but their name is Zarate. Like karate, but with a Z. And the reasoning for their ban is supposedly abuse of bugs. So Now, it's quite possible they could have received an email from Cyberstep giving them a cease and desist, like a caveat, and we just don't check it because, you know, sometimes we just don't check emails, whatever. And according to this, they should be on a 7-day login suspension. So Zarate, if they're following their own terms of service, and this is his only abuse, he should get a 7-day suspension, and then in a week or two or so, or whatever, whenever he logs in again, or at least tries to, he should be able to, according to this. But we'll have to see. I also heard of another player, Nia. They're a Switch player, a very, very powerful spear user on Switch. Really, really strong, doing awesome runs. I saw a lot of their stuff. I saw them upload a lot of stuff to Twitch. And not Twitch, sorry. It's not Twitch. It's Twitter. Twitter. They're on Twitter. They got banned. And they got banned, I believe, like, based on what they posted on Twitter. Like, they would argue with Cyberstep all the time and, like, just talk shit to them. But they would also post, like, data mine stuff from the game. Like, I saw pictures on their Twitter, on their Twitter channel, I guess they're on their Twitter, of like hitboxes for certain monsters. They'd always post videos of extreme lag. But I saw some hitboxes of monsters and things like that. And that's ripping assets. And I feel like that kind of goes against ToS in a certain way, like reverse engineering things. Developers don't like to do that, especially, especially Cyberstep. So having said that, let's quickly go over what's enshrined here, and then we'll go after the terms of service after. So malware use, account permanent block. Like if you're using malware, you're using third-party software, aim assist, whatever, malware stuff, that's bad. Next is malware protection and distribution. So if you got on Onigiri and you were trying to sell someone malware, like, let's say, remember the days when people would log into Oni and there were bots? Like, we literally had this for a while. There were people that would stand in Onigashima and they would just constantly type, hey, go to this site for cheap OC. Hey, go to this site for cheap OC. Like the same shit you'd see in a lot of other games. Like I used to see this in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links all the time. Like just these spam messages trying to get people to go to these third-party sites and buy cheap OC. Like don't go to those sites. Like don't go there. Don't do that. But that would be, I guess, what would line up with malware production or distribution, because obviously they're creating something that affects Onigiri and they're trying to distribute people to it. So that's bad. The third thing is account buying and selling and exchange. So this will have a lot of nuance because of how people feel about this. But basically, now we saw this with PC a lot. Like I remember when PC players would leave, like PC players would leave a lot. And there was a mass exodus of PC before they had their shutdown back in June. And I remember, like, you go on Facebook, I'm in a lot of Onigiri Facebook groups and stuff, and I would just see, oh, selling account for Tempest, this, I want a PSN, or I want this much, or this is my PayPal, or whatever. So how would they be able to tell when they sell accounts? So that would have to be, like, in the logs. Like, let's say, for example, I just started whispering Wesley, and I said, hey, Wesley, you're an awesome spear user. Do you think you want to buy this account? And I just start whispering this to him. And he's like, yeah, how much? And it's like, that's it right there. That's like, there's something in here for attempting to do it as well. So that's no good. How they could tell is if you did it in-game, they could look at the logs. Chances are they could look at IP address and they're like, wow, this person stopped logging in on their main account on their PSN, on their PlayStation, and on their IP, and now they're always logging in as the other one that's never, like, you could look at that, I guess. I don't know how much overreach or how much they can truly see, but if there's a paper trail and it's found out, they could do it. From what I've heard, there are people that have bought and sold accounts, stole accounts. Like my friend lost his account someone stole his PS5 and deleted his account. Really weird thing to happen, but it happens. How they could do it, I don't know. I wish I could talk to a GM about this. I wish they could elaborate. Maybe we'll find out more when we looked at the actual terms of service. So the next point is cash transaction of items. So let's say, for example, I have a Tempest Magatama. I personally value a Tempest at, like, if you look at the sum of a Tempest parts worth of energy, a Tempest is worth about 2,500 OC worth of sculptures and all the things that make it up. A Tempest has this huge value. Now, let's say someone was selling a Tempest for like minimum. No one in their right mind would do that unless they got it from like Gala as a rare reward, because that was possible. So let's say I was going to sell someone a minimum Tempest or a minimum Fused, and then I whisper them saying, hey, I'll sell you this for min, but you send the money to my PayPal, okay? Like, that would be a cash transaction. We've had tons and tons and tons of those throughout the history of the game. I remember on early forums for the game when I was trying to figure out things, I remember people were selling dragon spears with Water Dragon 7 and stuff on it for like $80 US. Like, I remember this. I remember reading these things. Like, it's the same thing as, well, it's a cash transaction of items. And that results in a permanent account block. Like, if that's found out. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't ever sell anything for min. That's ridiculous. It's just they don't want cash transactions. Like, for example, let's say Spote says, hey, Oro, can you carry me in Purga a couple runs today? I'll give you like a 105. And I'm like, sure. That's not a cash transaction at all. That's just like a bargain. That's just a negotiation. That's not a cash transaction. That's fine. But, you know, every time you see someone selling like one friendship item for like a lot of money, you know, that's kind of weird. And the number one indicator of a cash transaction. Now, I'm not saying this stuff. This is the reason I don't like talking about this, because I don't want to nail out every single one of these points so that we can become a giant Gestapo gulag of reporting thy neighbor. Like, that's not the goal of this here. Like, I don't want everyone just going around just being like, oh, they're doing this. This is like, no. We're not here to do that. Like, we already have, you know, our overlords in charge of that. This is to protect us. So, the biggest indicator of a cash transaction is if someone just has something in their stall for like maximum OC. Like, if something's up for 9999999, something sketches out. Like, if it's up there and they read the name of their stall as like PSN me for prices, that's a huge red flag. If a GM logged in and saw that, I'm pretty sure that they would give you a caveat and say, what are you fucking doing? Like, I remember I was asked by Jack Atlas, he said, I made a Kotanoa mag. He said, how much should I sell that for? I asked him, how much do you think that should be sold for? And he said, I think it should be sold for about 2,000 OC. I said, I don't know if you'll get that. Maybe you would or not. What I would do is put it up for like a bit more than asking price. So if you think it's going to go up, if you think it's going to sell for 2,000, sell it for 2,500. If someone buys it, fantastic. However, I've noticed this with selling Tempest is I will usually get approached by someone and they'll say, hey, I see you have a Tempest there for sale. I think 3,000 is a little steep. Would you be willing to negotiate the price? And I'd say, yeah, sure. And then I would drop it down to like 2,500 or whatever the situation demanded, you know. Maybe they give me a fused, whatever. You can negotiate. But the opposite is if you put something up for maximum OC, that's a clear red flag that it's like, this cannot physically be purchased. Someone's not putting like $1 million in this game to get that item. Not when they could just put $1 million in this game and restore, like, straight from, like, exactly. So That's a big red flag. That's a no-no. Don't do that, okay? Everything I'm enshrining here, don't do. Right. Hey, Sam. Sam, do you know of anyone, of people that have gotten banned in the past on PC? Like, I've only have a couple examples to really reference, but I'm really curious what happened. There's not that many people playing. I don't know. Now, they could do it for breaking the rules. You have to shake a bill. How can they do it? I mean, they could do it no problem. Who got banned from PS4 of them? Yeah, it's a guy named Zarate, a 130 player Zarate. A dumbass named Arabic Dark Girl, Sarah? And Sarah? Let's see. I have to pull up the chat on my computer. Or I could do it on my phone, I guess. Because some things just get omitted. No problem, Lorak. They were a friend of Chilango. That's how I found out about it. Chilango said my friend got banned in this group chat I'm in, and it's like, holy fuck. And this was 16 hours ago. And we haven't heard of any other cases yet. Oh, a troll? Okay. So let me see if I can find... Dumbass Arabic Dark Girl, aka Sarah. Okay. So they were a troll in PC. Okay. So what did they do? They just like talk shit to everybody? Like were they just like a gnome or whatever? A hacker? Oh, okay. Okay. Alright, so let's continue down. Where did the page go? Onigiri. Okay. So yeah, cash transactions, don't do that. Attempted transaction of an item is a warning. So for example, like if someone had in their I've seen this before. Someone might have in their profile, will carry for PSN cards, or I'll sell you this for a PSN card, or whatever. Like that's an attempted, that's an advertisement. If you're advertising it, it's really an attempt. Like that's at least how I'd categorize it. Or if you're just like whispering people, hey, want to buy a Tempest for like $20 PSN? Like that's an attempt. That's a solicitation, essentially. The next one on here, and all of those result in a premium. Yes. Yes, you can. Like, here's going to be the rule of thumb. If you're glitching, if you're exploiting a bug, if you're glitching, exploiting, etc., like, it can be a bannable offense. We went over this a bit earlier, but like, I think if somebody had all of their alts like doing it, like every single one of them, then it'd be like, oh fuck, they're abusing this. But if you like get DC'd in a portal and your stall is just there, like it's whatever. I mean, it is possible. Nothing lasts forever. Like, it's really weird because I'm trying to like create an atmosphere without fear-mongering the community, but it's like Cyberstep's also fear-mongering the community. And it's like, hey, everybody that did all their stuff, like, we're gonna, like, it's really weird. Like, I wish I could like talk to Zarate, and I want to know if they were like free to play or if they were pay to win. Like, I want to know their situation. Like, let's say for example, I spoke with someone the other day and they said that during an event, the last knowledge event we had, the Fire and Holy ones, the person I talked to said they dropped like $4,000 worth of OC to restore. Like, that's how much they ran it. Like, they carried people, they just enjoyed it. And they're very financially well off. Like, I talked to the person and they have a great paying job. So this isn't some addiction based crazy shit. It's just that's how much they put in. So let's say there's a person that generates $4,000 in a month for Cyberstep. In Cyberstep's position, like, do you think they would kill a cash cow? Like, that's where it's weird. That's where there's a fine line. Like, if there's a player abusing and they don't spend, well, they should just, like, cut the vine off the tree right then and there, don't you think? But if it's someone who spends, like, well, it's just a game. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not in their best interest to get rid of those people. It's sort of like why celebrities break the rules and get away with it. You know what I mean? Like, if Lindsay Lohan speeds in her car when she's higher than a kite and drunker than a skunk, she gets, like, a slap on the wrist and a night and whatever. I agree, Pat. I agree. Thank you, though. I also agree. And then the other perspective is you have Joe Blow, who works at the gas station, and he's, you know, he just has a few cold ones and he speeds down the road. Bam, 5 years in prison, no parole. Like, you know what I mean? Like, life's like that. It's not fair. But I would love to know, I would love to hear from his spending habits on the game. Like, what's his story? Because, like, let's say, for example, somebody, like, does Bazaar. They don't spend any money, but, they, like, because Bazaars are free now. Everyone can just plop down a Bazaar and, like, make money off the game. You farm Neoteros, whatever. You can generate OC. But you would actually never benefit Cyberstep at all. If someone like that were to, like, I generated, over the course of, like, a year, I had, like, 14,000 OC from Bazaars only. Because I farmed and I sold mags. I did a whole bunch of stuff. Like, that's, like, $1,400 worth of OC that I had in total. And I blew that all on, like, 2 Toshi accessories. Like, if I didn't, I thought about this the other day when I was leveling up. If I didn't, I could be the same level I am now, if not higher. But I chose to invest in accessories instead of level. Like, and that would not benefit Cyberstep in the slightest. Like, in a certain scenario like that, I could see them axing a person like that. Like, I want to know more of the situation of the person that got banned. Because supposedly the reason for their banning was exploitation of getting extra drops with a bow. However possible that may be. You know what I'm talking about. So that's not good. Yeah. Like, it's not good at all. So that's supposedly the reason. They were farming last night, and that's what it was. So that's why I said at the beginning of the stream, I said, you know, maybe if I made this video today, they wouldn't have done that, or yesterday, or whatever. Yeah, so generally speaking, like, they're watching anything that could be a glitch. Right. Sometimes bow glitch just triggers. Now, does this mean never use a bow? No. Does this mean never use R1? Maybe. But right, they should fix the game. That glitch could be fixed as easily as just slowing down auto combo. Like, it wouldn't take much to fix it. Like, it's sort of like saying, like, don't drive in the potholes, but we won't fix them. And it's like, fucking roads just full of potholes. You know, it's not the best example, but it's like, you know, you guys are in charge of that shit. Like, MiHoYo's fixing, like, every glitch that shows up, and every time there's a glitch, they give compensation for it. Like, comparatively speaking. Right, like, now, you guys might remember back in the day when we all farmed anew for experience, and it was a big thing. Right, like, the process in order to glitch a stall, either it happens naturally by crashing in a load screen, or somebody's literally like going into their PlayStation and messing with internet settings to do it. Like, I don't want to explain how it's done, but it doesn't just, tee-hee, it happened by mistake on all 6 of my characters. Oh, no. No, there's a conscious element to this. So, that's the abuse of bugs. We have to move forward, and I love talking to you guys about this. I love the feedback. Please keep going back and forth with me. So the next one on here is fraud. This one comes with a warning and a 30-day login suspension. So fraud. What does fraud mean? Fraud probably also includes what we talked about earlier. Fraud includes posing as a GM. Fraud includes posing as a member of Cyberstep. My uncle works at Cyberstep. My uncle works at Nintendo. But trying to make money on the way. Right. So fraud would be like I said earlier, someone standing in Onigashima with a sign above their head, or they constantly type in all chat saying, hey, come to this website, buy OC for discount or whatever. That's fraud. Fraud would be impersonation of a GM, impersonation of a Cyberset employee, or really just leading people to a false site to buy currency. That would be fraud, and that is not a permanent ban, but it is a login suspension. They do give a warning first, but the warning is received through email. It's not received in-game. So let's say a player were to receive this warning email, a caveat as it's called, and they receive it a week ago. They never check their email because they're just grinding hardcore and, whatever. Well, Cybersec would say, well, we did send you this email a week ago. You continued to persist. And, here's your 7 days. And then after 7 days, please don't do that again. But it's supposed to be an email. So that's why I would like to get in contact with the person who was banned. I would like to know, did they receive this email? What were they doing? What are their spending habits? I want to know those factors. So hopefully, as things progress, hopefully it's just a 7-day that they got, and we can talk about this. But right now, I don't want anyone else getting anything. Nothing at all. We all have to behave ourselves. Okay, so that was fraud. After the 30-day suspension for fraud, if you do it again, it's a permanent ban. Okay, so next is account theft. It has a filler. Suspended, like, if you're accused of account theft, your account is suspended throughout the duration of the investigation. And then it says at the time of detection, related player account is permanent block. So what I think that means, this is translated, is so the way it's translated, it basically means if you're found guilty of the theft, then your account would be deleted. I don't know if they would delete the stolen account. I don't think that happens because a while ago, I have a good friend, XS. They had their account stolen. Someone logged in for them. Like, they had a friend that was playing as them, and then they took their account. And they got their login information. They changed the password. And they started gutting his account. They stole all his fuse. They stole all his stuff. I remember this is from last year, a year ago. I remember the guy approached me. I actually gave him some fuse mags just to get him back on his feet, and he continued to play. He told me this story. He said his girlfriend fought relentlessly with Sony, saying, hey, that's our account. That's our account. That's our, they fought tooth and nail, and they did get it back. And that's when I did give him his stuff back. But that did occur. So that wasn't good. But that did happen in the past 2 years ago. I don't think they're going to retroactively go back and do something now when they didn't before. I think everything now is like everyone best behavior, God's watching, and he's got a fucking sniper rifle. So that's that. Next, this one is huge. This one is operator-related party fraud. posing as a GM, posing as an operator for the game, posing as a Sony employee, posing as anyone with authority from the only thing. It would not be a PlayStation ban. It would be an Onigiri ban, because the ban picture was someone tried to log into, like, when you're banned, it shows you a notification saying banned, and then it's on the character select screen. In order to reach the character select screen, you must be logged into the account associated with the Onigiri. You have to log in. Like, I have to log in as me, and then I'd click on Onigiri, and then I'd go to my character select screen. So there's a process. So it's not a total account ban. You would not lose your entirety of PlayStation games or your account or whatever. It would just be self-contained within Onigiri. Maybe your account gets a strike or something. Maybe they watch you for shit. Anyway, don't do it. Whether it's just Onigiri or not, don't do it. Don't do anything bad. And that's the impersonation of an operator or a related party fraud is a permanent ban. It's weird. I don't know how that differentiates itself from fraud, but either way, don't do it. This one has no banning penalty, but it's a player name that goes against the policy. At first, you receive a name change request, and the game requests you to change your name right then and there. It contains a bad thing, change it. What did you say? You mean like on PC or for Cyberstep games? Maybe? I'm not sure. I mean, once you can't make another Cyberstep account for PlayStation with the same email or with the same email address. So, I don't know how that works, because I had PC Onigiri accounts. This is for HP. Oh, JP. Yes. This is actually on the JP thing. Yeah. This is for Onigiri JP. This is for... They wouldn't have one for... They would have a one-size-fits-all policy. They wouldn't just say, oh, JP can glitch and it's fine. Like, they wouldn't say that. So it's safe to assume it's for everybody, because this thing I'm reading is translated from Japanese to English, but the English one posted it. Okay, next one on here. So if your name contains something that goes against the policy, so if you were just like N-word, F-word, C-word, CS, whatever, they would ask you to change your name, and then after you don't do it, they would force your name change on you. What is this? Oh. Okay. So, right, so player name things. This also applies to chat group names that violate policies. So, like in my pink chats here, like if one of these was anything that wasn't allowed in your name, it's not allowed to be there, obviously. It's pretty simple. It probably also applies to Party Box, like you probably can't say bad things. Right, you know, that's probably what that applies to. So chat group names, probably party, but you can't be responsible for a party. Like, it's probably the pink chat groups, because those are permanent, those are in place. Whereas we've all done it. You've been in a group party chat and like one person's AFK. Not a party chat, but you've been in one of these groups. My friends did this all the time. Like, I would be AFK and they would all leave the party. They put something like stupid in the box, like, oh, is a dumbass, and then just like put down arrows, and then like leave me alone in the party, and it's like, oh, this person's a dumbass. Like, you couldn't just like join a party with someone and they put a whole bunch of bad words and leave it on your head. I mean, they could, but I don't think that's what they mean. I think they fully mean the pink chat stuff. There is. He should probably change it. Well, if it was a problem, they would send him an email first. Like, that's not as serious as anything else. They wouldn't even send, he would log in and say, hey, change your name, it would say. And then if you don't do it, they change your name for you. There's no ban, but they can do anything they want. So that's name stuff. So next we have, it's translated to backbiting, slander, harassment in game. This is weird because there's two, I think that just means bad talk. I don't know why it's backbiting. So this is like in game, if you just started whispering someone, calling them every bad thing under the sun, you're cursing like a sailor, you're doing, X, Y, Z, you're saying everything bad. Then you get a warning, hey, it'll say stop doing that. You keep doing it to people, you get a 7-day suspension, then a 30-day, then a permanent ban. Then there's also the exact same statement, but this refers to SNS. I looked up SNS earlier. SNS means social networking system. So I think that just means social media, but again, it's related to Onigiri. So like if you're in a Facebook Onigiri chat and like, I don't know, people are just talking a whole bunch of shit to you, harassing you, whatever, saying racist stuff or whatever, making fun of you because you can't walk, whatever, it goes on ad infinitum. Then they'll be like, you'll get a warning, then a 7-day login suspension, and then it's permanent. So it's harsher on social media than it is on in-game for whatever reason. I think this also applies to the case of Nia. Nia, like I said earlier, they got banned. They were a really good Switch player. They had a lot of videos. They would just talk shit to Cyberstep constantly on Twitter. I can't remember. I always say Twitch instead of Twitter. On Twitter. They still have an account on Twitter. And to my understanding, they got banned. And they would always like talk shit to Cyberstep on Twitter. They would say, fix the lag, this is a shitty game, do this, do that, and they post the pictures of like game assets, whatever. I think that also applies. So if you're just like a big dick nozzle on Twitter, like in regards to Cyberstep, in regards to Onigiri, then they'll give you a caveat, then you'll suspend you, or if you just constantly do it, whatever. I don't know how much belief I have in these caveats and warnings and whatever, but it is what it is. The next one is a huge one. This one is in a permanent account block, and I only have one reference to explain what this means. Okay? Without getting into levels of villainy. This is operational obstruction. Now, if any of you remember the good old days of Onigiri, how would they know if you're doing in groups, though? How would they know if you're doing... Well, maybe. Who said that? How would they know if someone is double dropping? So how would they know if someone is doing that? For example, like an honest answer of how is they have logs. Like when Kathmander logged in and was talking to Circuit years ago, Kathmander said, I've seen the logs, I know all about you, and he just shut up and smiled at her. So these logs, like the info, all that stuff, they have, like, they could look at these logs, they could pour through tons of these logs. So let's say, for example, we hate farming Yakumo Temple, we want to double up our cushions. And if they just keep seeing, oh, like, kill pipe cushion without you killing Aramin or whatever, like in the first floor, or Beelzebub. Like, if they really wanted to pour and comb through stuff, they could look and see abnormal behavior. Like, that's how they would know that. Now, I don't know if this extends to Lacus Mortis. In Lacus Mortis, there's a way to speedrun the dungeon, whereas one of the requirements is to say there was a way that a certain Vanguard with long range could shoot through the portal and hit the target before you cleared the rooms. You would be exploiting a bug and getting through the dungeon quicker. I've seen this happen. This was like 5-6 years ago, whenever Moon was relevant. That's something that could be done. Like, if they wanted to pour through someone farming Lacus Mortis, something that doesn't profit them or whatever, they could look and say, well, how the fuck did they finish it without killing this room or that room or whatever? Like, if they truly wanted to do something, if they truly wanted to examine, they could do it. It's just reading the entirety of this would take a long time. That's the only way I can think of it. But at the same time, like, it depends on what's being killed, what's happening. You can't do anything. I don't advocate anyone to try anything. If you wanted to, you could make a new account and that you don't give a shit about and go see how long it takes. But that would just be a guinea pig experiment. I wouldn't do it though, because unless you had a VPN, and I can't advocate for a VPN, but there's no real way to know. Hey, I can't read your name because there's a bunch of symbols in it. Anime fans, they added ban. Banning's been around for a while. The earliest ban I ever heard of was my friend just talked straight shit to a GM for like a while, and they gave him a week ban. And I remember, I think it was Kathmander, and she's just like, enjoy your ban for a week. Come back in a week. And he was banned for a week. This happened a long time ago, back when we were farming gargoyles. When I made that video about, like, what are gargoyle weapons, and I was in Kyoto, it was that day that he got banned. I remember this, because I was sitting next to a new with his balls hanging out. Yes. With permabans, do they IP ban? That's something you'd have to ask Cyberstep, and they would probably never disclose what they do, because the more... It's the same thing with me explaining this now. The more I explain the intrinsics, whatever, I can't say the word, the intrinsics and the specifics of what constitutes or triggers these bans, it just gives more reason for someone to say, oh, well, I can't do that, then I'll circumvent and do this, right? So is it an IP ban? I don't know. It's probably, considering that our Onigiri accounts are tied to PSN, I don't think so. Because let's say you lived with your brother and you both have, or your sister, you both have PlayStation accounts, you both play Onigiri. One of you does completely glitchy shit and you get banned, and you both share the same IP address because you're in the same house. No, I don't think it would be a group IP ban. I think it would be an account ban. Because people have been banned and they've come back on other accounts. It's not IP based. It's not IP based. They could probably check IP, but I don't think it's IP based. Because it just says account permanent block. It just blocks the account. That's it. And then the final thing in this group of offenses is, if the management team finds that the rules are violated other than the above, so someone's doing something dubious not listed above, they will give a warning saying, hey, this isn't in our terms of use, whatever, but we don't like what you're doing, please stop. And if the person does not stop, then it will result in a ban. So let's brainstorm really quick. What's something that you could do that's not listed here that could result in a permanent ban? I really don't know. Oh, right. Fuck, I gotta explain this. I didn't mention this. This is really important. I'm gonna go back. I don't even want to think about that because it's just bad ideas. But Operational obstruction, permanent ban instantly. What this means is if someone does something in some way within the game that causes like the server to crash, like intentionally, if like someone were to do something that delays an update, delays the processing, causes the game to crash, etc., 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 like maliciously, like let's say, for an example, let's say back when we had Gala and everyone was in this tiny like 4x4 space and everyone's on Ifrit and everyone's got exactly. If everyone just became a giant lag machine and they caused the game to crash, like that'd be bad. Like that would be an operational obstruction. If you get banned, does that mean you can't play, or it's only the avatar that gets banned? It's your PSN account that can't play. Like, let's say, for example, you're doing these glitches on an alt character, not your main, because you think you're safe. Well, that's still an account registered under your PSN, or a player, or whatever. It's account-based. It's not avatar-based. It's not character-based. It is account-based. Hey, Miriam. Oni was shut down on Xbox and PC. And right now, Cyberstep's laying down the law saying, hey, stop this fucking glitching and we're going to ban you. So, I don't know. We're trying to warn and prevent against that. So, yeah, so this is the one time I've ever physically heard of someone actually breaking something in the game. This is an old story. Back in time, a whole bunch of players went to Kaga, and they were standing outside Hokurikudo, the first line, the door between Hokurikudo and Kaga. It's becoming very strict. Like, these rules were pretty much always there, just never truly enforced beyond, like, people actually reporting hate speech and all this shit and harassment, whatever. But what happened was in Kaga, there was a group of I don't know how many players. I remember seeing it. And they just spammed the fuck out of Sanctuary. Like, everyone just spams Sanctuary constantly. In effect, because Sanctuary is a lasting effect. Someone can use Sanctuary three times per weapon and just switch, right? So they had like an army of people doing that, and it actually caused the portal from Kaga to Hokurikudo to not work. There was a period in time where I would get a whole bunch of messages, people saying, hey, I can't go to the lines. The portal doesn't work. And they literally broke that portal, and it was broken until Cyberstep fixed it in an update. So, you know, that's an operational obstruction. You know, that's operational obstruction. That's the most best way I can describe that within the game. So don't do that. So there's a bit more, and I'm going to read that now. So notice of implementation of measures based on measures regulations. This is following the chart that I posted. There's more to it. The transition period from the notification to higher level measures will be immediately applicable. You will be notified to the email address you registered when you registered your account. We shall not be liable for any damage caused to the user due to not receiving the notification. When the notification cannot be received due to not changing the information when changing the email address, etc., I will. It just says I will. That's a translation mistake. What that means is, like, they're not responsible for, like, data charges or anything, a loss to the person from their notification email. Like, for example, let's say someone only has data and they get an email. It's like, oh, man, I got to pay for this email. It's like, that doesn't matter. They're also saying, like, we don't care when you receive the thing, whatever. So this is to describe bad talk and slanderous, which they brought up earlier. Yes, that needed a reset. So, we've had that before. Like, the game runs for so long and it's just stuff stops working and they have to reset. Okay, so this is about bad talk and slanderous acts. It's more defined in-game and on SNS. SNS means social networking system. The act of defaming a specific person within the range where the message reaches an unspecified number of people. What this means, if you and another guy want to talk shit to each other, by all means, that's kind of fine. That's just a personal dispute. If you're doing it out in the open, you're doing it in a group chat, you're doing it publicly, you're defaming someone, you're talking a lot of shit, you know, exposing personal details, all that kind of stuff, that's what's bad. It says, even if the message is limited to a specific member in the game or on SNS, which is social networking system, if the content is extremely malicious, a statement that ignores the human rights of the other party, such as racial discrimination or physical discrimination. So, basically, extreme stuff, if you're insulting someone based on their immutable characteristics, they'll come after you. Now, you can call someone stupid because stupidity is just stupidity. Like, if someone does something stupid, there's something stupid. Doesn't mean you have to rub it in their face and just repeat it a billion times, because then that's harassment. But a statement is a statement, and then, you know, racial discrimination is bad. It also states remarks that give other players a sense of disgust or fear. So do not go into Onigiri group chat and describe an abortion. Do not do that. I mean, calling someone, it depends how you do it. Like, if you're like a child and it's like, oh, you're a big fat meanie, it's like, well, okay. But if you just like say like, oh, I can't really describe it because it's bad, but you know, if you're going to extreme measures to describe the extreme measures of a person, it's probably bad. It also, like, remarks that would give, yeah, I already explained that, you know, remarks that give other players a sense of disgust or fear. I think that's also threatening, describing gross things, grotesque things that aren't some dark web shit there, anyway. Then it says, the act of speaking badly against the other party's bad words. So, that's weird. The act of speaking badly against the other party's bad words. So this basically states that even if you didn't start the argument of the swearing and the racial slurs, etc., it basically means don't be a chihuahua and just keep parroting it back at them. You're not helping the problem. Just like use your, and this is a true message, use this thing here, the blacklist. My blacklist is full of people that just talk shit and do all this stupid garbage and just have no respect for somebody else and have just bothered me in the past. I blacklist them right away. Like, I have no need for your shit. Especially when people would just, like, you could DC going into a dungeon from a whisper. Like, this person here, they would just stand in Onigashima all day and just type cries. Like, I had enough of that. Whatever. A lot of these people just blacklisted them for just talking shit and doing whatever. Like that, there's like an alt someone just made to harass me. Like, a lot of these people, like, they're just complete asshats. And so on and so forth. So use the blacklist. If someone's going to bother you, do not just parrot the shit back at them. Do not give back. Just blacklist them and move on. As far as I know, there's no limit to the blacklist, and I don't want to know. And really, guys, right now in the current state of the game, with how many players we have, there's no need for that stuff. There's no need for us to be fighting. Like, it doesn't make much sense. Like, back when we had like thousands of people, sure, have your fights, have your disputes, we're all humans, whatever. But right now, like, we're all in a common interest playing the same game. Like, the rift is pretty much dead. Like, it's not as things once were. We're all kind of in this together, is what I want to say. So there's really no need for that kind of stuff. Like, if someone wants to be an asshole, let them be an asshole, but just block them and move on. Or report them and move on, or whatever. A couple weeks ago, I never told this story. Not a couple weeks, a couple months ago, our group chat, like our clan or group, whatever, what do, that was me, Lyra, Eva, what the fuck's his name? Suzaku, Ryujin, like all of our guys, you've seen a lot of videos. Like we have a group chat. It was like our family chat, and we had someone in there. Honestly, just someone we kept around because they were, you know, they knew a lot of stuff. They used to play PC. Eventually, like we all just stopped really playing Oni for a while. Like you guys know, I didn't play Oni for a long time, and my friends even more so. And just out of a sudden, they just started inviting really bad people into our chat, like Onigiri people. They invited them in, and they came in maliciously. They started saying everything that you could be banned for. Like all the bad stuff, all the gross things, like things of pedophilic nature, just threats of violence, all this stuff. It was really bad. And the guy who owned the chat he was at work. He couldn't do anything until later. So we just endured it all. My friend talked to them a bit. And then after, we just kicked them all out and like kicked the guy out who invited them. It's really just turn the other cheek. Like, not forgive someone, but just fucking ignore it until it can be properly dealt with. There's no need for you to stick your neck out when there are methods to do so, like blacklisting someone, blocking someone on PSN, whatever it is. Like, if someone makes you uncomfortable, just block them out of your life. Like, just, there's no need to put up with their shit. You're not going to win an argument with a troll. They're just there to bait you until you say something stupid, and then they're the one who reports you for barking back at them. That's a vicious cycle, and don't fall into that shit. That's trolling 101. It's to provoke someone so much to where they lose their cool, and you immediately ban them. Like, it's not worth your time. Don't fall prey to that. Like, yeah, just be an adult about this stuff. To continue, bad talk also includes acts that spoof the management side, related parties, or company with the player's name. So, that would include things like pretending to be a GM, like all that stuff, pretending to be a Cyberstep associate, like, you know, like if somebody had the name GM Aurelia, let's say GM Blue Boy, GM whatever, and you ran around with the Code to Know accessories because it looks like the GM one. Like, you couldn't just have that and just start spouting out nonsense of whatever, like falsities, or saying, oh, if everybody... My controller got muted. Don't need to be worried. My controller died is what I want to say. But, for example, if a person wanted to have, like, they had the GM title, like, they were trying to spout out nonsense. Like, let's say they said, oh, by the way, guys, there's an OC campaign right now, and how it works is if you buy Magatamas and spend this much Bazaar OC, then you're going to get a really awesome legendary gacha ticket, next update. They put down a stall with like a bunch of fucking friendship items or whatever, and the stall says GM so-and-so, and you buy it all, and it's like, that would be a prime example of misusing the company name in a form of speech to coerce others to do something. That's fraud, that's bad talk. That's what they mean by that. It also states acts that significantly interfere with the progress of operational operations. The only thing that would be telling people to go, we're gonna go lag the fucking system. Like, that would be basically like the only thing that's not protected by like the Second Amendment. Let's say, like, in the normal sense of, like, you know, you can say pretty much anything you want to say, freedom of speech. You can't yell fire in a crowded audience. You can't, or crowded theater. You can't incite violence, etc., etc. Basically, you cannot incite someone to create operational problems. You can't say, let's all go ride Ifrit and turn all their settings to maximum and just go, you know, go rampant or whatever. Like, you can't do that. And then it also includes acts that promote prohibited acts under the terms of use and measures. So basically, you can't incite someone to break these rules. You can't go up to someone and explain to them how to glitch something or how to do this or to do that. In the past, I've had videos back when these were just exploits. I deleted like 3 videos today. Before making this stream, I deleted like 3 videos from like 2017 of like a pro tip of how to do one of these glitches. Because at the time, it was just a pro tip. It was just an exploit. It was a thing. These measures weren't really in place back then. So retroactively speaking, I don't want to incite anyone else to fall into this. I'm making this because I don't want anyone to get banned. I don't want anyone in trouble. So hopefully you all tell each other not to do any of this shit either. So inciting that bad stuff or promoting it is a no-no as well. So there's that. Was that Velvy? I knew Velvy. I know. But at the same time, I'm not here to name drop. I'm not here to do anything bad like that. I'm just here to make sure that nobody gets banned and we don't do anything to get banned and that everybody has a good time, okay? For however long that time is, I hope all of us get to experience it to the fullest, okay? It also states, regarding the above, when we investigate the customer's conversation log and action log and confirm the behavior equivalent to the above, we will take the default action. Hey, Bones. What was the real question? What should I do if I get my cross weapon and want to get my Gargs, but I can't solo hard to get the final form? I got good mags. I'm 115 though. Are you... okay, so... Oh, hell. Prime example is find someone to run the dungeon with. Secondly, maybe turn down your settings so you can fight the gargoyle with less lag. Make sure you're using the right elements. Like, if you have your cross weapon, you should be starting with Sleet, or probably Sleet, because your lightning will beat him if you're using coordinated skills, like corresponding skills on your weapon. Which one's giving you problem? Because Infernal's an asshole, like, at that level. Levin's actually, like, the easiest one to fight, because all he does is stun you. Sleet freezes you. But probably the most important thing is probably just to find some allies. Because even if you get an ally and they can revive you, it's a game changer. The minute there's 2 of you and you both don't die at the same time and you can res each other, you'll have a lot better time. And even though you have the cross weapon, maybe you should pursue getting 105 mags or whatever else is available to you. Okay, so next on our list, there's a whole bunch of other stuff on this page. It says you need to be careful when managing your account. We will not be able to respond to any problems that occur by performing the following items for any reason. So they said they cannot respond. The act of communicating information about your accounts to others. So this is basically stating, like, Cyberstep can't do anything if you give somebody your login information. They can't do anything about that. That's on you not to do that. Don't give away your social insurance number. It's very simple. Don't give anybody the 3 numbers on the back of your credit card. It's the same thing. Like, they can't be responsible for someone's voluntary acts that may or may not be in their best interest. What was that? Are they planning to close the game soon? Because it seems to be dying. Well, this is a silver lining in all this. Like, assuming there's not this huge ban wave or whatever. The fact that they're rolling this out, and they didn't roll this out when PC was around, is probably to mean that, like, PC's management is watching PS4 now. Like, more attentively. Because let's say before, when there were X amount of servers, they would have different management assigned to each. Like, we had GM Blue Boy and Cathmander, whereas PC might have had different GMs. You know what I'm saying? So, basically it's saying we're under new management. And if anything, it's a silver lining towards longevity. They wouldn't do this if the game was going to die in September. You know what I mean? Like, that's the silver lining in all this, is that the game, if the game were to be closing soon, they wouldn't waste their time doing this. Have I ever spent money on Aurogiri? Absolutely. I spent money a lot. Throughout the 6 years, I probably spent a whole lot. Absolutely. I spent money yesterday. Spent money last week. Anyway, I'm on vacation. It's a good thing I'm around, because this shit wouldn't be going on. I wouldn't have as many streams as I do and all this stuff. Okay, so to continue, Cyberstep's not responsible. Basically, they can do nothing about, this is to continue this, the act of sharing an account with someone other than the person themselves. Like, they're not responsible for any repercussions for when that happens. Like, your buddy logs in for you. At the same time, they change your mount's name to Splasher. They're not responsible for that. That's on you. Or you let someone else log into your account and they waste all your OC. That's on you. Cyberstep says we don't encourage that, but once you do that, there's no repercussions. Because how easy would it be for one of us to say, oh, my buddy logged in as me and they rolled a whole bunch. Can I get my OC back? AKA, I didn't get my Vanguard and I wasted all my money. My friend did it. Can I have my money back? No. You're not getting none of that shit. That's what they're saying. Also, they said they're not responsible for, like, there's nothing they can do, they say, if someone buys or sells an account or if there's account theft due to the use of malicious programs. They said we will not be able to respond to any problem that occurs by performing the following items for any reason. And that's the things I just talked about. So they're not responsible for that. And there's nothing they can do about it. Like, they can't reinstate. Yes, a long time ago, yes, my friend got their account deleted. They had their PSN stolen. Yeah. Like, they had their PlayStation stolen and someone deleted their account. I was talking to that guy the other day. He's back. Like, he's 130 plus. Like, he's got frozen... I saw the frozen fortune staff. Fucking beautiful. Yeah. So, I think there's 3 more points on this page for us to go through before we get the terms of service so we can get some more accurate information. About the use, production, and distribution of malicious programs. So, I tried to explain this stuff earlier, but this is kind of their take on everything, which should be the more important thing. Acts that illegally use external tools or programs and significantly infringe upon game balance. Even if you request the use, production, or distribution of the tool, we will consider it as an act equivalent to the above and take the prescribed measures. So, don't use a turbo controller for R1. Like, don't use a turbo controller. That's an external device that could impact game balance. So basically running macros on a controller. Now we have pretty good free reign of how our controls are set up through the settings. But let's say, for example, we're not allowed to make a certain action touchpad. We're not allowed to touch touchpad in any way, shape, or form. I can't even move the mouse with touchpad. Could we do that before? Anyway, like, we've all wanted touchpad to be Vanguard or mount for the longest time because the button's not used. Options button does the exact same function. If someone were to, like, reprogram their controller and map touchpad to Vanguard, then that would be an external use and that would impact game balance in some way, shape, or form because you've made something easier than it's supposed to be. Etc., etc., running a program, a script, anything like that. That's what they mean by malicious programs. The next one is about fraudulent activities with multiple accounts. If a user who has multiple accounts gains this is fucking weird. What did anime fans say? Yes, true. This one about fraudulent activities with multiple accounts. So to reiterate, If a user who has multiple accounts gains unreasonable profits due to fraudulent acts and unauthorized use of bugs, restrictions will be placed on other accounts owned by the user in accordance with Article 6 of the CyberStep Terms of Service. It may be done, it says. So we definitely have to read the articles. There's 17 articles. We'll go over them after. But this directly references that, so we're going to go into that. So I believe this is entirely talking about having multiple accounts, all just farming OC with stalls that stay open. Like, if somebody had, like, let's say, for example, you as a person have, like, 5 PlayStations in your house, and you set all of your PlayStations up in order so that you can, like, trade to yourself, or you can I mean yeah, like, or keep the stalls open or whatever across multiple accounts, but you funnel all of those profits into one character or whatever, that would probably be deemed as unreasonable profits, I guess. A perfect example, but this doesn't actually happen, but let's say, for example, we could trade gacha tickets through Bazaars, let's just say, and somebody just kept making accounts and getting all the free gachas and trading them all to one account. That would be unreasonable profits. Like, if all those things were allowed to happen, that would be a prime example, apart from OC or whatever. Like, it'd be like if there was no such thing as Bazaarable OC and you just logged in as 5 characters and you just traded all their OC into the main account, that would probably be an unreasonable amount of profits, as awkward as that is, because it's just something someone would naturally think to do. Lastly, there is responding to malicious behavior. In some cases, we may take strict punishment beyond the prescribed stage. The measure provision may be revised at any time depending on the situation. So this is not a court of law. You cannot, if accused, you cannot cite, hey, how come I'm getting 30 days when I'm supposed to get 7? And CyberStep will say nothing, but it basically is blanket for screw you, this is my game. So these are, like, in place. They're there to scare you. They're not there to be like, well, I can do this for like 3, like, it's not a acceptance. It's not like when you get a driver's license and there's 10 passes on it, it's not saying you can do everything up until 9. It's like, no, like, they can say, hey, you're just doing this on purpose. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know, like, that's not what this is about. So depending on the situation, like, if, for example, back in the day when there was that Onigiri hookup for, like, that pedophile guy who wanted to hook up with that young girl and they were crossing borders and shit, I'm pretty sure, like, they got banned because that's, like, way out of this league. It's not even on the radar. Like, that would be, like, a transcendent offense, essentially. Okay. Moving on, that's everything enshrined in the penalty.html, but now we have to go to the actual terms of service. So this is a lot of text. I don't know if I want to read it. It's not that long. I'll read it all. Fuck it. Article 1, the scope of application of this agreement. This CyberStep service terms of use, hereinafter referred to as terms, was developed by CyberStep Co. Limited, and they will be referred to as company, and our site hereinafter referred to as site. It defines the agreement between the user and our company that should be observed when using the online service, hereinafter referred to as this service. Operated and provided by, referred to as this service. All users are required to confirm the following contents and agree to this agreement before using. So that's that little checkbox you clicked when you first made your account and says, hey, I agree to the terms of service, let me play. If the user is a person with a limited ability, such as a minor, it is necessary to obtain the consent of a legal representative, such as a guardian, parent, or guardian. Before agreeing to this agreement, if you agree to those terms, we will assume that the consent of your statutory agent has been obtained in advance. So Onigiri assumes everyone is not a minor. Rules and guidelines separately set by the company for users regarding the service, and various arrangements and notifications issued by the company from time to time, regardless of the actual name and method of insurance, this site, or other methods of the company, regardless of posting on the website, email, etc., These are hereinafter referred to as individual terms and shall be integrated with these terms. If there is any difference between the individual agreement and this agreement, the content of the individual agreement will take precedence over the content of this agreement. However, if it is separately stipulated in the individual terms, this shall be followed. So basically what that refers to is everything enshrined within the terms of service is there. But if Cyberstep issues an issue, like the new punishments we have for breaking the rules that they put up, the one I just read, like those supersede this because they're like amendments. They're an individual statement. So even if like we finish reading this and we find minor punishments, whatever they put out later is like the new shit. Like it's considered like an amendment, an individual law or whatever. We will provide our services to which this agreement applies and information about them in Japanese. So it clearly states right there that earlier I mentioned that these terms of service were only in Japanese. Like they're not in English. What's up with that? Like, but it clearly states that they will be stated in Japanese. So that's on us to translate them. So there's no argument saying, well, I can't read this language. I don't think I abide by your rules. So that's actually in their rules. Who got banned? Someone named Zarate. They got banned for getting too many drops with a bow. Article 2 changes to this agreement. The company shall be able to revise this agreement at any time without notifying the user in advance. We will post the latest version of this agreement on the site at any time so that users can refer to it. The user shall visit this site from time to time to check the revised contents of this agreement. The company shall not be liable for any damages caused to the user by not confirming the revised contents of this agreement. So that basically states it's up to the user to keep in touch with this. Right, don't do that. That is correct. And this happened, the ban occurred 16, 17 hours ago in reference. So there could be more. I don't know. If anyone hears anything else, like, let me know. Alright. Article 3, definition of terms. In this agreement, in addition to the terms defined above, the following terms shall have the meaning specified below. User means a user who agreed to this agreement, registered as a user with us, and has the right to use the service before using this service. An account means information that can identify the user who owns it, including the account ID and password defined in the following section, game data, etc. Account ID means the ID given to the user by our company. Password means a password that is a combination of letters and numbers given to the user by the company. Okay, since I'm reading this, I can't really look at the screen, so I'll have to have my phone nearby to read comments. Oh, see ya, Oyama, and thanks for all your engagement. I appreciated all your comments and questions. Don't break the law. Okay, so Article 4. User registration. A person who wants to become a user shall agree to this agreement, apply according to the method prescribed by the company, and register with the company as a user. The user shall not be able to change the account ID given by the company. Changes can only be made if we accept the change request and we reissue it. So basically, like, let's say Cyberstep issued you like a login thing because you had to reset your password or whatever, but the randomly generated characters like came out in some way offensive to you, like it was like N1G3R like 5469, like that would be like, hey, I don't like this, can you change that? And be like, oh yeah, sure. Like that would be a prime example of that. Does Onigiri plan on finishing the story? Hopefully. Right now, for the past while, it's just been little events that happen at a certain filler point, and no real story has really been added apart from like sub-story through the addition of new characters like Leviathan and Lancelot and other things that minorly advance the story. But it's not directly, like, we haven't gone to Mount Vanguard swap, Divine Possession. The last time story went up was with Orihime, so that happened like a year ago. So yes, I think they plan to do so. The rights and qualifications of the user... Oh wait, there's another thing. The user can effectively use the account ID and password given by user registration even in the SNS, social networking service, provided free of charge by the company for the purpose of user interaction on this service. So that basically means if you're using these Cyberstep forums with your login account, like, that's fine. The rights and qualifications of the user shall belong only to the person registered as the user. In any case, the rights and qualifications cannot be shared with a third party or transferred, lent, succeeded, etc. to a third party, regardless of whether they are paid or free of charge or provided as collateral. I don't know. So this person was apparently doing that at like midnight today. So it could be like effective as of a certain date or whatever. We don't know their discretion. Either way, the main point of everything is to make sure that nobody gets banned. Like I don't want to see someone be like, oh my god, I was on vacation for a week and I wanted to leave my stall down for like while I was gone, and now I'm banned. Like I don't want that to happen, right? Like Cyberstep has their reasons for what they do and why they do it. The only thing I can say is don't do anything. But the first case I've heard of someone being banned is today. So hopefully what's in the past is in the past. Like earlier, I went and deleted videos from 2017 about how to do that. I called it a pro tip. Like I had discussed many glitches in a lot of different videos, and I like looked up a bunch of videos where I discussed glitches or how to do certain things, and I removed them from the channel because that's enabling. I don't want to like inadvertently enable anyone to do these things. Like today, I've tried my best not to explain how to do anything while discussing things. Because, you know, someone's going to watch this video and they're not going to know much. And they're like, oh my God, there's a glitch. There's an advantage. I could do a thing. Like, you get excited whenever you get to have special treatment or you get to circumvent the rules. It's exciting. So I'm trying not to explain how things are done. And you know, I'm trying to protect everyone. So I don't know what their methods is. Hopefully no one else gets banned. Based on what they said, the punishment for abusing a bug is a 7-day ban. So hopefully Zarate comes back in a week or two and we get to talk to him more. But I don't know how it's going to go. Like right now there's what? There's JP PS4, PS4, JP PC, Switch. I don't know if there's a Switch JP or a Steam JP. I don't think so, but I could be wrong. But there's like 5 or 6 servers of us left. Like right now our goal should be to make sure that nobody gets banned and we all get to enjoy the service until the very end. So so that's how things are. Okay, the next part of Article 4. We're almost at Article 6, which is where they talked about banning and stuff. Right, exactly. Right. Like, and not only that, it's like the stalls, the bazaars, everything and anything. Like, for example, back when we could item stack, if they deemed unreasonable profits obtained from glitches or alts or whatever, like back when there's an exchange shop and there's item stacking, like someone could get like a whole, back when they gave us like boxes that had really premium drops in them, you could like get like a bunch of these drops and like sell it to your friend, and you get each of your alts to do it, you pass them back and forth. I don't know what quantifies for unreasonable amounts of wealth, if they consider that with drops. Do drops have weight to them? What if someone did it with friendship items? Like, you know, like, oh, I have a shit ton of friendship items and we can item stack and you're stuck with your Susanoo. I just give you like 900 of them suckers, like for nothing. Like, is that an unreasonable amount of profits? I don't think so. I mean, it depends. It all depends on what defines those units of measure. Like, it's really hard to define. So hopefully we'll find out more as we read this. Okay. And the last thing we read, it said that basically your account belongs only to you, and it actually said you cannot succeed it. So let's say, for example, I retire. Like, oh, I hit 135, I want to retire, and I name my friend down the street as successor to my account. I can't do that. I can't give it away. It's only me. I'm not allowed to do that. Or if I die tomorrow and my son wants to take up my mantle, he's not allowed to do that. Or my friend, or whatever. You are not allowed to do that. Whatever, within what it says. It says, if we determine that it is difficult to operate the service properly due to a lack of equipment, occurrence of failure, or other reasons, we will inform the user until the reason is resolved. The use of the service may be restricted. So that's basically like back when we had problems where like Sekigahara was completely black. And you couldn't see anything. Like there was a problem. Like they have the right to shut down the service to fix it temporarily. Article 5, paid service. Okay, we're getting to short articles. If this service includes paid services, we will separately post the terms paid services that stipulate the charges and payment methods on the site. In addition to agreeing to these terms, you can use the applicable service, paid services, after agreeing to the paid service terms. Okay. Article 6, restrictions on the use of this service. This is where we want to really, this is our meat and potatoes here, boys and girls. In the event of any of the following reasons, we shall be able to immediately restrict the use of this service by the application user at our discretion. The method and content of the restriction can also be determined at our discretion. So they determine what the laws, what the offenses are, and they get to determine the punishments for them. They can outline them as a warning, but ultimately, like, let's say, for example, Cyberstep was a super money-loving, like, they want everyone to have a horrible time dictator of a game company. And they find out that Aurelia makes a whole bunch of videos that encourage free-to-play behavior, and we're not making any money because of him, and he's causing an anti-monopoly that's against the company, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He doesn't want, like, he's interfering with our profits. They could deem that a problem for them and remove me. Like, prime example, everybody that went to EU and told everyone not to spend, knowledges are coming, don't spend on this banner because Miyamoto's coming, don't spend again until Oda, don't spend again until Lancelot, etc., etc., etc. Get 15 scrolls of Miyamoto at the start of the game when she's readily available so that you don't have to get her again later when she's in a worse lineup. Like, if someone came up and said all these things because they know the future, and they deemed that a problem, they could remove that single source. Now, whereas where that's, in the case of EU, that was a large group of players that migrated back to their home country, that's not a single ban. That was literally, this server is not profitable, goodbye. Right? So that's, whatever's, like, bad to game balance or better to their wallets, like, bad for them, they could deem that a problem. Now, obviously they won't, because, you know, let's say tomorrow PewDiePie starts playing Onigiri. Well, bam, your game is now, like, in the 100,000s of new accounts, and you're booming in money. Like, they would not do that. Well, I mean, they could, but they probably wouldn't. You know what I mean? They wouldn't come out and say, oh, you can't make guides for this game, you can't have a social media presence. Because we know if there was no social media for this game, people wouldn't know about updates, people wouldn't know what to do. People, like, when I roll, people are like, oh my god, that Vanguard's so good, they want to get that character. Like, that's how things work. That's why there's, like, a relationship between content creators and, you know, showing things off. To continue, so, in the event of any of the following reasons, we shall be able to immediately restrict the use of this service by the application user at our discretion. The method and content of the restriction can also be determined at our discretion. So then this includes a bunch of things enshrined within. 1, the user violates or may violate this agreement. When the user's password is leaked to a third party, and the third party illegally uses this service, or when the third party illegally uses other services of our company. So, in this terms of agreement, I'm not allowed to give someone my password. If I was giving this password to a person with a third party, and then the third party just went and did all the bad hate speech shit, like, you can use your restrictions, basically. Or they do anything against the company or whatever. 3, when the company determines that the user's actions are harmful to our business. So that's exactly what I just said. If I were to be, as a YouTuber or someone else were to start becoming a free-to-play elitist, and that's like they espouse how to do everything free-to-play, and they disencourage money, they disencourage spending, they completely discourage their potential profits, they can terminate you. That's exactly what I described, and that was their third one. I've never read this before. That's just what came to mind. Like, when everyone just like sits around and says, "Oh, don't spend money. Oh, don't do anything. Knowledges will come. Oh, we'll get another Gala. We'll get another Mount Vanguard like Hound Dog or the other Mighty Burn." Like, when people start saying, "Oh, don't spend. Don't do this. Don't do that," and someone constantly does that in game or in social media or whatever, they can say, "Hey, you're hurting our business. You're not helping us. You're a fucking problem. Be gone." That's what we agreed to when we clicked to this game. Okay, if a user who has acquired multiple accounts restricts the use of this service in any of the acquired accounts based on the preceding paragraph, the company shall similarly restrict all accounts owned by the user. And then it says, suppose you can. That's a translation error. So that preceded this. So basically, if someone has a whole bunch of accounts, like technically it says you're not allowed to have multiple accounts. I mean, you can have multiple accounts. It's just if you use these multiple accounts to hurt their bottom line or hurt the company in some way, shape, or form, or break any of these rules, then they have the right to terminate that user of those accounts. And then when the user registration is for the purpose of impersonating the company or a third party, or when there is a risk of it. So basically, they can terminate your account if someone's using their account to... So basically, if someone... They can get rid of your rights to use this game if the way you're using it is dangerous to the company. So basically, Aussie, someone got banned for exploiting a bug this morning, about 17, 18 hours ago now. And I'm trying to tell everyone, don't do any glitches, don't do any bugs, don't do anything bad, don't, like, try to hurt the company's bottom line. And we're basically reading what's against the terms of service, and we're reading the terms of service. So we're in Article 6 of the terms of service right now. Okay, Article 7. This is a long article. Article 7, suspension of the use of this service / cancellation of agreement to this agreement. Okay. If a user who has been restricted from using this service based on previous article does not correct or resolve the reason for the restriction by the deadline prescribed, the notification from the company that has set a reasonable deadline, the method prescribed by the company by notifying the user, canceling the user registration, and stopping the use of the service by the user. So this is about suspension of the use. So, like, let's say they have a deadline. Like, let's say, for example, this probably applies to someone charge backing. Like, someone buying OC and then charging it back. Like, we see this a lot in, like, Genshin Impact, or I've seen this in Fire Emblem, where people will end up having a negative currency for OC or whatever. So, like, let's say you buy, like, 1,000 OC and then you charge it back on your credit card. They might say, hey, you charged this back, but you purchased the stuff. We need you to spend again so that you can rectify this negative number on your account because you owe us this. We're going to give you a week to do this, and if you don't, we're terminating your account. That would be like one of the only times they would give you a deadline. Or if they had issue you a name change request and you don't do it, then by that time they can forcibly change your name to something else and force you to buy the name change ticket. Prime examples. If the company determines that the reason for the restriction on the use of this service is in the preceding article is malicious or serious damage, the company will cancel the user registration without prior notice to the user regardless of the preceding paragraph. And the relevant it shall be possible to stop the use of the service by the user. So let me read that again in my head. If the company determines that the reason for this restriction of the use of the service is malicious or causes serious damage. So like if they like suspend you from your account and then they realize, no, it's really, really bad, we can't let them back in, then even though you're suspended, they could choose to permanently suspend you, like ban you. The company shall not be liable for any damage caused due to the user due to the restriction on the use of this service based on the preceding article, the cancellation of user registration based on this article, and the suspension of use of this service. Okay. So they're not responsible for what happens to you if they ban your account. Article 8. This is the user's self-responsibilities. This is apparently for us. Where's the part where it says I have to spend money every day? Okay. The user shall use this service and perform all actions related to this service under the user's own qualifications and legal responsibility. The user shall bear all responsibility for the consequences of these users' own actions, including but not limited to violation of this agreement, and shall be liable for damages resulting from the actions, including all expenses such as attorney's fees. The company shall be exempted from all liabilities for the actions of these users. So basically, like if Cyberstep wanted to bring a user to court and it was like in a certain town or something, they wouldn't be responsible for covering your travel expenses or whatever. If the user causes damage to the company or a third party, including other users, through the use of the service, the user shall compensate for the damage at his or her own expense and risk. At their own risk? Holy shit. Fuck, we're gonna break your legs. If any complaint or inquiry is made to the user, our company, or a third party due to the use of this service by the user or an act related to the service, if any complaint or inquiry is made by another third party, we will handle and resolve these at the user's own risk and expense, and will not cause any inconvenience or damage to any other person, including our company, other than the user himself or herself. So basically, like, if some other company or party approached you because of this game and bad things happened because of it, they're not responsible. 4. The user shall use this service only at his or her own risk, and shall use the information obtained using such information, and shall bear the damages and costs incurred. The user shall prepare and implement the electronic devices and software for using this device, the conclusion of the telephone usage contract, the subscription to the internet service provider, etc. at his or her own risk and expense. So basically, you're playing an MMO, and if you want to play it, you have to provide your own landline or your own internet connection to do so. They're not responsible for providing bandwidth to players, is what that says. Like, and in terms of PC, it's like they're not responsible. Like it's up to you. It's up to you to be able to provide the graphics card to play Onigiri. Next. 7. If a user discovers a violation of this agreement by another user, he or she shall promptly report it to us. That's some Gestapo stuff. If the information registered for this service is changed, the user shall promptly change the registered information in accordance with the procedure established by the company. So basically, like, if for whatever reason you registered under a certain state and that state has no taxes or whatever, and you change state, then you have to change your email or whatever, or at least notify them. As far as I know, you can't do that on PlayStation. You can't change your information, so maybe you have to submit a ticket and request it, but it's not something we could do on our own. Okay, Article 9. Our personal information protection policy will be applied to the personal information entered by the user when registering as a user for this service. Our personal information protection policy will be posted on our official website. So they're basically saying that we're not going to give away your personal information that you use to, like, subscribe to us or become a user. We shall be able to keep a record of access logs such as the IP address of the user who uses this service and the date and time of use. We can only disclose the access log when we are requested to disclose it based on investigations, trials, or other legal procedures, or when we receive an inquiry from a public institution for a valid reason. So, like, Ah, okay, cool. It's not something I've ever tried to do, but thank you. Article 10. When the user uploads some message, information, or data when using the service and posts, provides, or discloses it here and after the uploaded information is referred to as uploaded information. The user uploads information. We shall do so after fully confirming that we have not infringed any rights, including the intellectual property of our company and third parties. So it's about user upload information. So like, let's say, for example, I'm standing right here. I'm doing a stream. I'm uploading a screenshot. I took a screenshot. It says, be a good boy. But let's say we change that to something nefarious or whatever. Okay, so basically, like, if I were to upload something using the game and it was, like, bad, then it's, like, bad. Don't do that, I guess. Like, don't use the game for nefarious purposes. The company shall be able to view the user's uploaded information at any time in order to manage this service. That's weird. So basically, like, if somebody did a whole bunch of, like, hate speech stuff, and then they did it in Onigiri, and then they uploaded it to whatever, or sent it to a picture to someone, they could be like, hey, yeah, you did do that. Bad. So they can look at what people upload. I don't know how that's determined, because someone could take, like, a picture with their phone and omit player name and et cetera, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about how to circumvent the rules, basically. 3. In any of the following cases, the company shall be able to promptly correct or delete the uploaded information at the discretion of the company without prior notice to the user. However, we are not obligated to monitor the uploaded information and are not responsible for modifying or deleting it, and it is assumed that we, the user or third party, suffered some cost or damage because we did not modify or delete it. However, the user shall bear all responsibility and we shall be exempt from all responsibility. So they're not responsible for what we do on their platform, basically. When the uploaded information exceeds the limits, a period, amount, etc., separately set by the company, when we acknowledge that the uploaded information unreasonably infringes on or may infringe upon the rights of us of a third party, when the company recognizes that the uploaded information is offensive to public order and morals or is slanderous to a specific individual or group. So basically what I've been saying before, when the company determines that it is necessary for the operation and maintenance of the service. So they won't really look at uploads unless the uploads cause any of those 4 things we just read. 4. If the user's uploaded information causes costs or damages to the company, the user shall bear the costs incurred by the company and compensate for the damages based on the request of the company. So they could, like, sue you for a loss of profits or whatever. Like, for example, if, like, a whole platoon of us all stood, like, in front of wardings, and we all, like, wore signs that said, hey, don't spend on this game. Hey, did you know it costs 1,000 OC to level up? Hey, purgatories cost 4,000. Hey, rolling won't work. Hey, it's only blue. Like, if you went and just did a whole platoon of that and it resulted in people not spending or whatever, because I don't think they can really rule it as a potential loss of profits, but I don't want to assume so, because potential is hard to quantify. But I imagine those kind of things would go against this, like disincentivizing people to purchase things, or stating things in such a certain way, or saying the end is near, delete your account, I don't know, whatever. Those things you shouldn't do. Okay, have I read all these? No, I haven't. Okay. Article 11, no guarantee. That's what it's called. The company does not guarantee any of the following matters under this agreement or legally. Does not guarantee. In addition, even if there is any defect in the following matters, we shall not be obligated to correct it, and we shall bear and compensate the user's expenses and damages. We will compensate the user directly and indirectly caused in connection with the defect. Shall not bear it. Okay. So there's no guarantee. These are the things that they do not guarantee. What are you saying, bud? Right. Well, all they have to do is make, like, better dungeons to do experience in. Like, if they made a dungeon where you just killed, like, 50 gold Darumas with a mount, and it cost, like, 50 OC to do, like, you wouldn't need to do, like, lucky arrow shots. Or if they made it so that the player could leave their bazaar up indefinitely, then people wouldn't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, but the company could also deem that, well, we don't want that because of the immense lag that having multiple bazaars open causes on the server. Or, you know, so on and so forth. Like, if they turned on, like, honestly, right now, if Cyberstep put out that, like, what are these things called here? This premium thing. The premium, where is that? Premium boost ticket. They did buff this, the premium boost ticket. So for 30 days... yeah, there's supposed to be an update, but they posted this instead, I guess. There's no update this week. Basically, if they made it so that the premium boost was stackable, like, if I could buy, like, 3 of these, if I could buy, like, up to 2 of these at a time, or 3 of these at a time, and basically create my own fever at my own leisure, and I could run Dew Creek at 800% experience, there wouldn't be a need for all this stuff. There wouldn't be a need to find methods to do things faster or better, you know? Like, if I could legit just spend, like, if I could buy, like, I don't know, extra premium boosts or whatever for a week, like, if I could buy a whole bunch of them and just do Dew Creek and get, like, a 2 billion experience a run, we have a game. We have something to do. Like, right now, the big divide, the whole debate with experience and how it's obtained is that nothing really is effective enough. And at the same time, a lot of people look at levels and it's like, well, holy fuck, I don't want to do that. You look at 136 is 200 billion experience. In order to get a billion experience from Dew Creek is, you'd probably get it in about an hour. Like, every 2 hours you get a billion experience from Dew Creek, maybe 1.5 billion. Whereas in experience dungeon, that's 3 runs. Like, in leveling up, 3 runs of experience dungeon is a billion experience. So 1 takes energy, 1 doesn't. Like, if there was a way, and then they'd sell a lot more experience boosts and these premium boosts, and we could get a billion experience from Dew Creek a run, oh fuck yeah, we'd be doing that. We'd be absolutely doing that. Now, you said, what if we can't run Dew Creek? You can go run Arcanes. There are other options. If there was a way we could just turn up the experience gain to where it actually matters and you could actually level up, then, like, you know, people wouldn't resort to doing all these measures. Like, a reason to scam people, a reason to double drop and all that, a reason to glitch bazaars. Like, if you generated so much OC, you generate like 10,000 OC, you'll just run Experience Dungeon all day. It doesn't cost you a cent. You just boop, 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 boop. Because energy's involved. Like, it's a problem because you could gain materials at a rate that exceeds the natural progression. So let's perfect example. We first learned about that really from PC. Like, I remember videos of PC players doing that when they first got Experience Dungeon. Like, prime example, in the beginning of Experience Dungeon, PC players learned that they could eat experience tickets in the dungeon. The experience ticket experience went into the pool, went into the experience pool, so that when they finished the dungeon, they received 3 times. They received, like, because the pool will triple your amounts if you double S the dungeon. You can go and do, like, training grounds. It wouldn't matter. You'd pop a boost, you'd gain double the experience from the tickets, you'd then get the experience tickets times 3, and then, like, that could happen. And that was something that happened on JP and PC, and it was promptly removed. Like, that is, like, let's say you had 100 tickets is 1 billion experience, right? Let's just say you could have 300 at the time. You have 300 tickets, you have 3 billion experience in your pocket. You go into training grounds, you have a boost on that multiplies the experience you gain. So let's say you have a 400% boost on, let's say. You go in the dungeon, 400% means times 5, basically. Your 3 billion experience quickly turns into 15 billion experience. Then, upon completing the dungeon, that 15 billion gets tripled into 45 billion experience. 45 billion experience. Now that was stopped. That no one was banned for that. That was something on their mistake. Like, they changed the system, which is what should happen. If these glitches are problems, they should stop these glitches, you know? But that's not the case. We have to deal with how things are. But in that scenario, someone could gain 45 billion experience in 5 minutes, right? This is back in the day. This is not possible. I'm not advocating for this. But if those things were in place, someone could gain 45 billion experience. Now, if they did that 4 times, they would be 136. If they did that 6 times, they'd be 137. If they did that 8 times, they'd be 139. If they did that for 4 hours, they'd be max level. Case in point, plain and simple. That's just how it would go. Now, the whole thing about it's my energy. So, on PC, everything was 10 OC restores. Okay, so what was that? I had to talk to someone. Oh, where's the chat? Right. So, yes, we don't have 10 OC restores. We have 30 OC restores. So put this in perspective. So it takes 10 OC to restore 130 energy, right? Well, like, basically, the perspective is everything that we do to restore costed PC and even Steam 1/3 of the OC to do. So, like, what would cost them 20 OC costs us 60, and 30 is 90, and 120 is 30. Like, as much as the PC players bitched about restoring and energy and all this stuff, they can get a purgatory weapon in like 1,000 OC, but for us it's 3,000 and plus, you know? And if you cut that value in half by attaining double the resources using that energy, they now have the equivalent of 5 OC restores. Think about that, right? So that's why that's a problem. Just to answer that, is because it cuts, like... Now here's my argument, this is my personal belief. Point of purchase is where they make their OC. They don't make their OC when someone redeems 30 OC to the Point Daruma, or to restore energy, or to roll the Nyankoropon. What, to me personally, what someone does with their OC, it doesn't matter. Cyberstep receives their cut the minute the OC enters the game. which is why they never really crack down on scam stalls, because what someone does with their OC doesn't matter. What matters is that someone puts it in the game, right? Like if someone wants to go buy a friendship item that automatically levels them up to 100 for 300 OC, that's on them. Like if someone put in 500 OC in order to do that, Cyberstep gets that $50. They get that immediately. Immediately. So I understand the argument of it's my energy, it's my choice what I do with it. But let's say every single person does that, or every single person glitches in such a way that people are receiving things for like not the proper price, then that's their problem, right? Like if someone goes to a third-party site, they spend $50 and then someone charges 1,000 OC to their account or whatever. Like prime example, I'm Canadian. Back in the day before Onigiri adjusted prices for Canadian players, my good friend Lyra, for my birthday, he gave me a $50 PSN card Canadian. Well, when he gave me that, he spent $33 US because of exchange rates. He then gives that to me, and I'm able to, get my 500 OC for less. And that's just something to do with exchange rates and money. Now, the game's been altered since that point, and all the MMOs, like Genshin's the same way, Fire Emblem's the same way. Like, different regions have different prices based on the US standard of money or whatever. Let's say, for example, every single one of us plays on a Canadian account, but we live in America, and we use American dollars through PayPal to buy Canadian cards for cheap. Like, you'd be saving literally 30% of the price for OC. Now, you can't really do this because Canadian cards can't really be bought, but let's just say every single person did that, and every single person was, getting discounts on stuff. Then they would have a problem, right? Like... what was that? I like this comment. And thank you for the respect. So you said, your piece on it is, if you're doing 3 Purga Onis, then do about 3 Hells a day for the entire event, then in a sense, you don't need to. Go farm Kaji if you want to play more. Right. Now, that really goes about a player's goals, right? Like, let's say, for example, it makes me feel like there's certain things they watch. Like, a player's level matters so that they can use the new cool stuff. Like, if someone's 128, it doesn't matter what purgatories they release. It doesn't matter. Like, I feel like Experience Dungeon is a weighted topic. It's a weighted focus. Like, there's certain things that are watched and certain things that are like, oh, they're double dropping, like, they're using less energy on Crag Gargoyle. Oh, no. Like, all of it is not you shouldn't do any of it, but I feel like certain things are more important. Like, back in Xbox, when people were using a single-player mode to duplicate the use of gacha tickets, well... that was people, and I remember people would be in the chat and they're like, oh, Oro, I'm GGing to get Miyamotos. They're like, I've been at this 6 hours and I've been re-rolling the same SP ticket. I'm at 3 Miyamotos. And the next day they're at 4. The next day they're at 5. They spent nothing to get something with an estimated value of like 200 plus. Like, that's a problem. Like, advocating the gods glitch, advocating going into the game files. Hey, it is you, Pikachu. Your picture looks like a shoe on head. Not gonna lie. I've never seen it before. Welcome. But yeah, that's right. That's right. Like, it's those sorts of things where, like, if I shut off my connection fast enough, now this is not true, it's just an example. If I shut off my connection fast enough, maybe I can get my ticket back or whatever. Like, that would be bad, Like, I don't know. Basically, the main thing they why not do Experience Dungeon hard mode during the week, then do Hell on the weekends, do 1 hour of do each day? Hey, High Lord, how much OC would it take for someone in PS4 to hit 130? I don't know what the value of 130 is anymore, because they did experience reduxes like 3 times. Someone by the name of Zarate. They're apparently 130. I don't think I've ever met them before, but Zarate. They were Chilango's friend. So what was I saying? Shit, someone asked me a question. How much OC would it take? Back in the day, before the experience redux and everyone magically jumped from 130 to 132, experience, it would cost someone on PS4 with full restores 4,000 OC to hit 130. From 129 to 130. So if they were 127... back in the day, it would cost probably an extra 500 OC, probably. Because 127 and 128 weren't that crazy compared to 129 to 130. That was the big meat and potatoes. That was the 300 billion you needed out of nowhere. Like, it used to be a big deal. That's the best answer I can give. I feel like it's easier now with the Redux stuff. But, yeah. Apparently it was for using a bow in the experience dungeon. This happened 16, 17, 18 hours ago. Midnight tonight. Midnight yesterday. Today. Whatever. Okay. So I want to go back to what Genshin was saying. Why not do experience dungeon energy hard mode during the week, then do hell on the weekend, do 1 hour of do each day. That'll get done without killing you. Right. Now, someone could absolutely do that. Nothing to say that a person can't. It's just that after a while, people, it's like, why do people share Netflix accounts? Like, why do people share Disney Plus? Why do people... You did nothing, Pat. Never say it again. But the reason why is because, to explain it, is... a single crystal in the experience dungeon is worth a Dew Creek run. That's why. If your Dew Creek run is taking you 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes or whatever it takes, you have to compare one run of Dew on this is on a 400%, by the way. I've seen a picture recently of one guy hit 130 in Dew Creek last week or this week. He was getting 29 million a run. So 29 times, he was getting about 90 million a run. This is on a 400% in his runtime. So what would take him 5, 6 minutes or whatever it took him? It took him 7 minutes in the picture. I haven't run Dew Creek yet. Like when you break 3 crystals out of the 4 in the experience dungeon, you've done that in the equivalent of like 10 seconds. And then you do the last one and it's like, you're getting like 3 runs of Dew in like a couple crystals or whatever. So it's like when you get used to like only eating Dairy Queen ice cream and you just can't go back to eating like basic brand no cream ice cream at the store. Like, I've gone through that. I once had Dairy Queen so much I couldn't eat regular ice cream. Like, I used to love this stuff, but it's just like, oh, I'm so used to the good stuff I can't go back. Like, it's part of luxury. It's less to do with laziness, and it's like knowing what you're worth. Like, it's like you used to work at a job that pays you like $30 an hour. You get canned and you can't bring yourself to work for anything less because you know what you're worth. Like, it's like that. It's like, yes, like instead of sitting home doing nothing, you could be working right now generating something, but that something you're generating is not as much as you used to have, and you just don't feel like it's worth your time. I think it's that kind of mentality that generates it. Like, some people want it handed to them without doing much of anything based on the example. Yeah. Now, that's Experience Dungeon with a 400%, which are somewhat limited. You'd have to do a lot of Oni mode to get a lot of those. So the reason why people do stuff is just because they don't want to do stuff. What do I think Cyberstep's plan is for the game? Like, does this make the game any better? I feel like I said earlier, like the management from PC that used to manage PC is now managing PS4, and they're a bit stricter. They watch a bit more, because we had a fucking lawless place for a long time. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, the shit we get away with, fuck. Or at least we did. What do I think their plan is? I think their plan is they're going to focus on PlayStation 5. I know, like I said earlier, like recent events have generated a lot of OC. Like the Purgatory, there are players that get the Purgatory weapons. That is a $400 sink of energy. Like I said earlier, there's someone who restored 4,000 OC during the knowledge event to carry people. Like, there are people that spend. Like, I spent OC to restore for experience. Like whales still exist on PlayStation, whereas they didn't elsewhere. And I feel like they're aiming their focus on PlayStation. They're saying this is like their most profitable platform, and we're going to watch it to make sure that it doesn't become like unlawful, or there's not this huge. They're just trying to make sure their investment pays out, I guess, pays off. I can't really speak on their behalf. I can only speculate, but if I were them, you know. Yes, it does. It was supposed to go away this Tuesday with the event, but the event never came. But yeah, the limited experience dungeon is still around. And it's basically discounted energy. There's extra dungeon drop inside. That's why I ran the shit ton of it. Because I said, to me, I wanted to level up, because it's like, well, sooner or later, they're going to release some 135 stuff, like Beyond Void. They're going to release some 127 stuff, some 136 stuff, some 134 stuff, etc., etc., etc. They can't just keep hovering at around 128 for everything they release. There's not much point to that. Eventually, they're going to do that. Let's just say I was. Like, if it was there indefinitely, I'd be tempted. I kind of just want to know the values. It depends. To give an honest reason, depends how many tickets you get in an hour. Yes, people are still putting money in, right? Now, I mentioned this earlier. So let's say, for example, you have a player, like this is why I want to know Zarate's spending habits, right? Zarate, the one who was banned for dubious acts in the experience dungeon, I want to know if he was a pay-to-win player, if he was a free-to-play player. Like I explained this earlier, like it is possible for a player to sell enough items through the bazaar or make money. Maybe you make money through scams or whatever. It's completely possible to generate a couple $1,000s worth of OC within the game from selling mags or doing whatever. Now, let's say a person who's never spent a dime in the game, who raises OC within the game, apart from people putting in money to buy their stuff, doesn't really contribute to the economy of the game. And then they use this, free currency they've obtained. They use it in such a way to which you're doubling your profits, your investments. And then you have this person who's never spent a dime, walks out of a dungeon, he's like 130, 131, and it's just like it's like it's like it'd be like a guy who lives at a soup kitchen walking into like Red Lobster and just eating a buffet, like for less, like paying, like it's hard to explain in comparisons, but you're getting more for less without contributing to the economy. It's like if you were just someone who didn't pay taxes, and you like lived on the land and you use tax stuff and you do all this stuff and you don't support the economy, but you take more than you give. You know what I mean? Like you become a parasite in a way. Like they be more like I would like to know what his situation was, or anyone else that gets banned. I'd like to know more about the person, because I honestly don't know the guy. I'd be curious to know. Because as someone said before, like, this isn't the first time we've had experience LTD. It came like a year or so ago when I wasn't playing. And, you know, after that, there's other 135s, there's 134s, 133s. Like, people know stuff. Like, they obviously did things. Like, you know, everybody's tried these things once or twice, they figure out about them. So no one's really completely innocent in all of this. So, but if they spend for it, it's hard to say. I'm not going to say, oh, if you spend, you won't, nothing bad will happen to you. But I just want to know more of the details of this. I do. What was the comment you sent? This is the confusing part too. I swear, USPC on economy base and player base are on bet spending more than us, and they closed. Like, I don't want to say doom, but how can you not feel doom, you know? So, I honestly don't think they were. From what I hear from PC players, like, I heard the player base was dwindling. Like, me as a player, like, in terms of Vanguards, I hadn't spent, like, money in, like, 6 months, like, a long time. Because, you know, I have all these Vanguards, like, max scrolled, whatever, not Orihime. Like, most of my Vanguards are maxed, or if they're not worth using, I don't bother. I don't know. Well, it wasn't probably enforced as this much, but I don't know enough PC players to know the answer to that. But basically what I'm saying is, like, a lot of the Vanguards I have are either, like, I have a Vanguard for every element, I have a Vanguard for every monster type. Like, I'm perfectly set. I didn't need to get Shikibu, Sugamo, Riku, Makami, any of those guys I rolled for last time. I didn't need to get them, I just wanted to. Like, a lot of top level players don't need new Vanguards. Like, and, like, based on my experience, like, rolling isn't that good anymore. Like, the players that want to spend, the players that want to get the most out of their game, it's all going to energy restores. You know? Like, I said this before, like, purgatories are a weapon Yankoropan. Like, you spend it to play. Like, it's a bit different. You get something, it's a direct deposit, like a direct return for what you do. But basically, like, unless it's a Sublime or so, yeah, Keiji. Keiji was the end-all be-all. Like, I got Keiji and never got anything after that. Then I wanted Shikibu and I got Shikibu. And honestly, part of the reason why I'm leveling up, part of the reason why I got Shikibu, like, I splurged and all this, is, you know, there's a lot of PC players and Xbox players and people that wish they could still play this with their account and they can't anymore. It's kind of like it's kind of like you're the new torchbearer. It's like, you know, I want to do these things for them. Like, I don't want to just sit there and do nothing when there are those that wish they could but can't. So that's part of my motivation for wanting to, you know, make this frozen fucking shadow weapon. I'm farming Sato for an Akame weapon. I'm doing this, doing that, you know, like, when a purgatory, like, when Osame comes, I want to get Osame mags. Like, I don't really want purgatory weapons, but I want to get Osame's mag recipe. Like, that's something I'm prepared and willing to do when that comes around. Like, before it was just like, I'll beat the boss anyway. If it takes me 8 minutes, fine. If it takes me 5 minutes, whatever. If I can't beat it by now with all the resources I've spent, then fuck, it's not worth doing. Like, that was my mentality, like, a few months ago. Like, I don't farm Leviathan Liched, because I don't really believe in the weapon. I don't like negative SP on a weapon. And it's on a Wednesday. I have no need to farm that. I can't physically farm that because I'm working, and I usually do overtime. I can't do that. Like, I'm not good at farming stuff that's just a certain day. Like, I've never fought Satan Ignis. I've never fully fought Leviathan. I went into Leviathan with the wrong mags and just got curb stomped and I left. I thought I had lightning on. I had, like, wind or something stupid. So I just like, oh fuck, I didn't know what I was doing. But I don't farm the things on specific days. Like, I don't farm Darkfin because I did it during the event. I never had to do that. Like, some people, like, every Saturday or whatever, they're doing Darkfin, or Sundays it's Ignis, whatever. Like, I don't really do that stuff. And Lich, it's like, it's a Wednesday thing. I can't really do it. When it's reward up stuff, that's different. That's every week. It's not that important. But when stuff's like every single day that you can do it, like Experience Ends, it's every single day I'm on vacation, I'm doing that stuff. You know what I mean? Right, whenever there's weapon reduxes, recipe reduxes, LTDs, right. Like Hades Elios is around right now. Maybe they'll have Leviathan LTD Unlimited or whatever. You know, that's just my personal situation. Okay. Oh, it was someone named Zarate. They're a 130 player. I don't really know who they are, but that's who I heard about. Now, based on Cyberstep's banning rules for exploiting a bug, they should be gone for a week. Hopefully, we see them back in a week. If not, then it was just a permanent ban. And basically, if it is a permanent ban for the person right away, then this is Cyberstep setting a fucking example. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you always hear about that in school. Like, someone does something minor, but they get punished a lot for it. It's like, we're going to make an example out of this person so everybody falls in fucking line. Like, hopefully they're not being made example of, but if they don't come back in 7 days or a month, then it could possibly be that. Like, this is the gunshot that makes the crows all fly away. One crow dies and the others come away and they never go back. You know what I mean? Like, this is probably what that is. For everyone's sake, hopefully. For Zarate, I hope they fucking come back. I really hope Zarate comes back. Okay, so we're almost done. The articles from the Terms of Service are about halfway done. Where was I? Right. Article 11. The company does not guarantee... Oh, this is the no guarantee. So the company does not guarantee the following at all. The company does not guarantee that the service operates normally, does not guarantee that there are no defects in the service. It does not guarantee that there's no bugs, defects, or other defects in the service, the software provided by our company on the service, and any other data or information. They do not guarantee that this service is not interrupted, this service is provided in a timely manner, and service access is always made when using this service. They do not guarantee the content and method of this service match the user's wishes and specific purposes. So that's basically saying they do not guarantee that there will be a better experience dungeon. They do not guarantee that. Like, if they made, like, Oni experience dungeon, like, this would all be fixed. Like, okay, 3 times a day, just go get experience. Okay, cool, thanks, bye. Like, the content, they do not guarantee that the information provided by this service is accurate and reliable. They do not guarantee the information sent and received by the user when using the service must be stored on a specific server, reach a third party, including our company or other users, or be displayed correctly on the screen. So that's when you get those Japanese titles for certain boss monsters. They do not guarantee all or part of the uploaded information should not be lost. They do not agree this service is completely safe, including that there are no problems with this user's PC or internet environment as a result of using this service. Let's see if there's any more chatty things. Yes, defects, exactly. Not lastly, but Article 12. Changes to the service. The company shall be able to change part or all of the service contents of this service at any time at its discretion without prior notice to the user. So, for example, if some new exploit came about and they said, hey, stop doing that, we're going to ban that. So then effectively, immediately, it's like, hey, we're going to update a thing and it's banned, whatever. Or they could change whatever, anything at all. Article 12, the company shall not be liable for any costs or damages directly or indirectly occurred by the user in connection with the changes to the contents of this service made by the company. So, for example, if I, let's say, made a living off Onigiri by streaming it, and then they eventually just, like, do something that disenables me to do that, they're not responsible for it. Or whatever. Article 13, suspension and cancellation of this service. Okay, so this is like what happened to PC. If it becomes difficult to provide part or all of this service due to the following reasons, we will temporarily suspend part or all of this service at our discretion without giving any prior notice to the user. It is possible to suspend the service with force majeure, which is French for an act of God, something without their control, lightning strikes Cyberstep Tower or whatever, such as a natural disaster such as earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, and eruptions, and wars, and turmoils, and riots. based on a fire, power outage, etc. Like if the power goes out at Cyberstep, there's nothing to do about it. They can suspend the service. Regular or urgent maintenance of systems related to the service when based on structures, orders from law and government agencies for other operational or technical reasons. 2. The company may, at its discretion, discontinue part or all of the service at any time by notifying the user on the company's website at least 30 days before the scheduled disruption date, regardless of the reason. So remember that one time they said that Oni was going to be down for like 2 weeks because they were doing like a operational systems update? Like that was what they did there. Anything that occurs directly or indirectly to the user or a third party in connection with the suspension or discontinuation of part or all of the service by the company pursuant to the preceding paragraph 1 or 2, the company shall not be liable for any costs, telephone charges, contract fees, providers, etc., but not limited to these, and damages. Even if part or all of this service is interrupted or discontinued, the user may be concerned with information and data, including the number of points that existed in this service in relation to the user before the interruption or discontinuation. No claims can be made. That basically states if they want to shut down the game and someone just spent like 5,000 OC, they will not charge you back. That's why usually when they were closing Xbox and PC and all that, they said that you could not charge anything more to the game. You could play it for another while or a month or whatever, but you could not charge anything to it. Even if part or all of the service is interrupted or discontinued, the user may be concerned with information and data, including number of points. I just read that. Okay. Article 14. We're almost done. All information. This is attribution of rights. All information, programs, and software, trademark, trade names, know-how, trade secrets, or all related technologies, patent rights, utility models rights, trademark rights, design rights, copyrights, included in this service, including but not limited to rights, etc., and all other rights, including usage rights and management rights related to them, belong to the company or a third party who has such rights. So all their rights belong to them. The user modifies, adapts all information, programs, software, trademark, and trade names contained in the service without obtaining the prior written consent of the company or a third party who is the right holder to them. It shall not be reproduced, edited. Okay, this is just saying like the user cannot just take Murasaki Shikibu, change her name to Orange Hair Tits McGee, and then start using them like monetarily or whatever. Basically, you know, it's copyright. Okay, the user shall grant the company the right to copy, distribute, modify, or delete the uploaded information free of charge and unconditionally at the time of uploading by the user. When the company transmits or distributes the uploaded information to a third party, it is possible to keep confidential which user specifically posted, provided, or disclosed the uploaded information. So, I remember there was a time where Cyberstep uploaded like the wrong picture to something. And somebody said, hey, that's the wrong picture. Here's the right picture. And they used that picture. I think that happened once. So they have the right to do that. For ideas related to this service that the user has published or presented to us in use for this service or in connection with this service without obtaining the permission of the user who published or presented the idea, we reserve the rights to use it at our discretion. So once upon a time, there was someone who designed a whole bunch of like ice-looking weapons for Onigiri, and they submitted it to them, and they said, thanks, we'll consider these when making new weapons in the future. We don't promise we'll put them all in, but we will consider their designs. And I think their designs kind of went into the frozen weapons, but they were tweaked by Cyberstep, obviously. Because out of nowhere, it was like the frozen weapons came, and we already had like other ice weapons at the time. But yeah, like if let's say, for example, someone designs fan art and sends it to Cyberstep for a cool new weapon, they have the right to like use it, and you do not have rights to it. They might like attribute it to you or reference you in its description, but they have the rights to use it. Okay, Article 15 is prohibitions. Holy fuck, this is long. This is a lot of things that people can't do. Okay. In addition to the prohibited matters separately specified in this agreement, the user shall not do the following acts intentionally or negligently in connection with the use of this service. Alright, so this is the list of no-nos in the ToS specifically. So we should see some repeats from what we read earlier. This is probably the big one, 15. Okay. Acts that infringe or may infringe the intellectual property rights or other legal rights of the company or a third party. So you can't do anything that does that. Acts that disclose or transmit personal information of a third party, acts that infringe the privacy or portrait rights of a third party, or acts that may infringe. In addition, third party personal information here does not matter whether or not the information was obtained through the use of the service. That basically means you cannot go obtain like the frame data for something or the model specs of something, or anything you could obtain through reverse engineering, and like give that to some other developer so that they can use it as an asset or for reference or whatever. Like, you're not allowed to do that. And that's sort of what Nia had done on Twitch or Twitter by posting like the specs of certain things, assets in the game, when they were like reverse engineered or whatever, and that resulted in a ban because of Twitter stuff. Exert as permitted by this agreement, data and information, including copies thereof, obtained through the use of this service, will be sent to a third party regardless of whether it is paid or free of charge. Acts of transfer, loan, succession, etc. So you can't send like Onigiri data to someone. Like, you can't get the files for their payment processor or how that works and send it to someone or use it or whatever. Then you're prohibited from the acts that the company recognizes as interfering with or may interfere with the operation of the service or the use of the service by other users, including providing and transmitting harmful programs such as computer viruses. That's the whole malware stuff we talked about earlier. The act of modifying, tampering with, or editing the information, contents, and copyrighted works posted in this service without obtaining the prior consent of these rights holders, or the acts of redistributing them in any way. The act of disclosing the contents of the above-mentioned modification, alterations, or edits, and the method of doing so, regardless of the method, in any place, including our website and the user's own homepage. So you can't modify. So basically, you're not allowed to download the model of your character and repurpose it in certain ways not possible to use in like an MMD, or to, put as a banner picture on your website or whatever. You can take a screenshot and that's about it. Because I remember back in the day, the Nojitsune sisters used to do MMDs with their Onigiri characters. Now, at the time, they probably didn't care, and I heard they just quit because they quit, but according to this, like, if the company deemed it bad or whatever, they really cared, they could terminate them for that purpose, for using those assets in a way that they don't want you to. Okay, what's next? Acts that discriminate against the company or a third party, slander, or otherwise damage the honor or credibility or infringe the confidentiality of communications of a third party. So don't like slander Cyberstep or a third party related to them or whatever. I guess Sony. Acts of posting, disclosing, providing, sending, transmitting, or inducing content that may be disgusted by a third party, including other users, such as slander, harassment, and obscenity. So we talked about that earlier. You're prohibited from using the service to form or act on groups that have beliefs based on religion, race, gender, ethnicity, and or other prejudice, or that are intended for commercial activities. So you can't use Onigiri to like fund your softball team, or you can't like start a cult in Onigiri, I guess. You can't start a KKK, you can't start I don't know, a hate group or a religion or anything inside Onigiri. Beliefs based on race, religion, and gender. So meritocracy is it. The act of disclosing the account ID, password, or asking for it from another person, regardless of whether it belongs to the user or another user. So you're not allowed to disclose your login information, and you're not allowed to ask someone for theirs. Plain and simple. The act of using one's account ID by multiple people. So you can't have somebody else playing on your account or vice versa. The act of being involved in a bug in client software or server software for an unfair purpose, or informing others of the bug. So this is the whole bug thing. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't want to describe these things. Like, if you know what they are, you know what they are. But you're not allowed to teach someone how to do a glitch. You're not allowed to, like, bring it up. You're not like, if there's a glitch, you're supposed to report it to CyberStep. They'll handle it, and just keep it to yourself. Or warn people not to do the thing, which in essence tells them to do the thing. So don't warn people to do it, just report the glitch to them. Hopefully they patch it, and we move on with our lives, and we don't get banned. That's right there in Article 17. Okay. It's for an unfair purpose. So this could even include, like, back when we fought New, we used to roll behind the walls, and we'd fight New, and we wouldn't die, and whatever. Okay. Acts involving server emulators, as well as acts of developing, creating, engaging in, and distributing server emulators, client software, pirated versions, and utilities. You can't play Onigiri on your private server, basically. You're prohibited from acts of intentionally using bugs in client software and server software. The acts of modifying, or adapting client software, developing, creating derivative works of the client software, decompiling, disassembling, or analyzing communication information. So that's reverse engineering. Acts for the purpose of buying and selling, exchanging goods and services, advertising, announcement, guidance for that purpose, or preparatory acts, regardless of whether they are for non-profit or profit. So you're not allowed to, like, advertise within the game. Acts of posting, disclosing, providing, or transmitting false or fraudulent information that infringes the rights or interests of the company or a third party. And lastly, in addition to the preceding items, acts that infringe or damage the rights of interests of the company or a third party, or acts that violate or may violate laws, rules, orders, etc., acts similar to the matters specified in. So if something breaks a law in your country, don't do it in Onigiri, right? Like if you're living in I can't say the word, orphan. If you're living in a country with hate speech laws, don't do that hate speech stuff in Onigiri, basically. Authoritarian. If you're living in an authoritarian dictatorship, you're not allowed to go in Onigiri and say, like, bad things to the supreme leader, basically. Right. So now we're on... Oh, there's a couple more articles. Article 16, very short. Recovery measures liability for damage. If the user does even one of the prohibited items in the preceding article, so in 17, we will take all measures that we deem necessary and appropriate for the service and the user in order to operate this service properly and smoothly. If the company or third party suffers damage due to the user violating the provisions of this agreement, the user shall compensate for the damages based on the request of the company. Article 17, disclaimer, the company does not assume any responsibility to the user other than that the stipulated in this agreement in relation to the development, provision, and operation of this service. The company shall not be liable for any disputes between users, between third parties related to this service. Data related to the user may be lost due to force majeure, such as equipment failure, trouble, power outage, communication line abnormality, or providing the line service. In addition, data about users may be lost or delayed due to system failure. The company shall not be liable for any damages caused to the user or third party, even if the data related to the user is lost or delayed due to the occurrence of such a situation, except when the company has intentional or gross negligence. So unless, like, Oni just forgot to do, like, a server maintenance for a long time and you couldn't log in, like, then it's their fault. But if it's like, oh, there's a power outage and we lost your character, there's nothing we can do about it, then there's nothing we can do about it. But if something happens, we'll let you know. Regardless of the provisions of this article, the user shall be liable for the damages of the company in any case. Regarding cases where the exemption from liability of the company is not granted due to mandatory laws and regulations, the final judgment of the court, etc., limited to actual and direct damages, including but not limited to indirect damages, special damages, intentional damages, consequential damages, and incidental damages, lost profits, lost data, etc. The company shall not be liable for any damages regardless of whether or not the possibility of such damages has been notified to the company in advance. The user shall, at his or her own judgment and responsibility, try to use the service to the extent that it does not disturb the healthy living environment of himself or herself and a third party. Company shall not be liable for any social, mental, or physical damage or any other problems caused by the user's deviation from the proper scope of use. So, if you use this to do trade deals and it ends bad for you, it's not their fault. Lastly, Article 18 is government law and dispute resolution. This agreement shall be governed by Japanese law. If any problem, dispute, trouble, etc. arises between the user and the company in connection with this service, the parties shall discuss and resolve it in accordance with the principle of good faith. If the resolution cannot be resolved between the parties, the Tokyo District Court shall be the exclusive court of jurisdiction for the first instance between the parties. However, any proceeding must be initiated within 1 year after the cause of the proceeding occurs, and after 1 year, the proceedings based on the case cannot be filed forever. So everything has like a statutory limit of a year. So, but that's in terms of court, but if we want to like take that as a rule of thumb, like if you were a bad guy and you're not banned yet and you did something a year ago, you're probably good. They're only looking at the now, essentially. More supplementary enforced. This was written in 2013, last revised in 2014. So this was only revised in 2014. So everything in there has been active for 7 years. Shin Suginami Ku Tokyo Izumi 12219 Asahi Seimei Databashi Building, the 4th floor, Cyberstep Co. Limited. That's it. We read it all. Okay. So, in summation, thank you every single person for still being here. There's 9 of you. If you guys have any comments, please give them to me while I relax. Hey Ace, someone got banned for abusing a bug related to getting experience tickets. That's all I will say. We don't know if it's a 7-day ban or if it's a complete ban, but we'll hopefully find out some more information as this goes on. How to write the ToS Simplified Edition. We are God. You are Jujutsu. Go forth and dodge our judgment the best you can, but we are never responsible for what happens to you. Only you. Good luck. In a way. So, play the game. Like, as they... It's clearly as... The nicest way to say this is it's as clear as they put it out earlier. Play the game as fairly as you can. Like, they want the game to be played fairly. They don't want anyone having advantages over others. For the most part, you know, like, they're not going to say don't get a PS5 because it runs better on it and you'll get better times than a PS4 player. That's not their intention. That's a freedom of choice thing. They're saying, like, don't abuse glitches to get an advantage in the game, basically. Don't do hate speech, don't slander, don't teach people how to cheat, don't insult the company, don't do anything to damage the rights of the company, etc, 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 etc. So, if this... Fuck, I crashed.